not just to have conversations in a Sheraton and we go back to our older mode. So there are 3 questions we must answer today, and this is what I'm going to do, and I stop there. What did the forum recommend in the 9 years? What has government actually implemented? This government is very accountable. We always tell you what we've done and what we have failed to do, and what results have come out of that. And finally, what must we now do differently to deliver the tenfold growth? I will come now to the key policy areas which we have gotten out of this. There are so many, but my team has scanned those things you see on the left-hand side as EGF policy areas. Number 1 is ICT and technology transfer are very, very critical. If we want to get the economy to work, we must digitize, we must automate the systems. We have seen that coming out of the forum. The second is revenue mobilization. No country has borrowed its way into growth, sustainable growth. At the end of the day, you must suffer the consequences. So we must ensure that we support John Musingu's here to collect more money from ourselves, each of us. Don't hide away from him. Don't make his life more difficult. Don't say he's harassing us. For economy to grow, Julius, we must have revenue. Number 3, public investment efficiency is another policy area. How do we get the money we spend on the public projects efficiently deployed? We have also looked at tourism, trade, and export competitiveness is a very key theme which has come out of our forum. Productive urbanization, climate resilience, private sector development, agro-industrialization, minerals, oil and gas. These are the key policy areas which have come out of our 9 fora, but doesn't mean that other things were not talked about. This is what we found to be more compelling. And as a result of these, government has been able to prioritize our growth agenda. And our growth agenda now are those 4 things. We call them the ATMs. Agro-industrialization, tourism, minerals, and then science, technology, and innovation, including that ICT. And the outcomes we want to get out of this tenfold are the high productivity, making Ugandans more productive as individuals, but also as families and companies, and getting our land more productive and other productive resources. Then private investment is key outcome. Once you do these things, you are likely to see the private sector being more aggressive and more contributor. We want the private sector because they're the ones who know how to make money, how to get agriculture to work better, the innovations. Government, we are not very good at innovation because whether Uganda has grown by 10% or by 2%, most of the government people you see, including myself, will get the same salary. When we get 3% growth or 10%, same salary. Government does not reward good performance or punish bad performance. But private sector does. You will not make money if you make mistakes. That's why we need the private sector to be the one to be in the lead. Then higher value exports, jobs, and the structural transformation. I will repeat myself on those things because they are very critical. It's the reason why we are having the 10th forum, so that we can be able to move the tenfold forward. So Uganda, as a result of that, I've told you, has been able to restore growth. The challenge now is to raise its quality, but also its speed. You can have growth, but when it's not good growth. We want to make our growth qualitative in a manner which I'm going to explain. Starting with that figure you see there, it shows you the journey we have had in the past 9 years. Look at where we were and the reason why this forum was founded. Uganda was growing at 3.1% in 2016-17. That was the growth. What was the main shock? Drought. We had a bad drought. That year, if you remember, after the elections, there was no rain for quite a time. And in Uganda, when there's no rain, problems. How can we rely on gifts of nature? So we learned our lessons from then, and we are working. That's why we are not compromising on certain things. But then the growth recovered. I shouldn't really say that it is the forum which led it to jump to 6.3. We haven't yet tested that causality. But we were doing quite well for a couple of years. Then COVID came, another shock. Shocks are part of economic life, the business cycles. And with COVID, we dropped back to 3%. But since then, we have seen recovery again, steady recovery. If you could ask me, we should be prepared for another shock. But how resilient are we going to be when that shock comes? It may be a repeat of the drought, it may be something else. But already, you have seen that some of the shocks have come, and the Ugandan economy has been resilient. The war is ongoing in the Middle East. Oil prices have gone up in the entire world, including Uganda. They have not taken us back to that deep where we were. That shows you that something is happening. So that's what we summarize there. The shocks were there, we recovered, but now the next steps, as I've said, is to convert this good growth and macroeconomic stability into transformation. So the second takeaway, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, is that recovery has been achieved, but we need tenfold growth to drive productivity, investment, exports, and good jobs. Kindly, if you were to take away something from today, take away the fact that Uganda is now looking at how do we get growth with transformation. And by transformation, we mean having Ugandans into productive, modern productive sectors, working outside subsistence agriculture, having investments into the ATMs by the private sector, well de-risked by government, having complex exports which can fetch good money, and that's the only way you will have the shilling to purchase, $1 to purchase very few shillings. We are not going to have a shortcut. It must be competitiveness, having good exports, but also having good jobs for the younger Ugandans so that they can be able to work and have a living condition which is fit for every human being. Now, I will highlight a few policy areas we've contributed to. Of course, I'm not, as I said, this is a clear disclaimer. There is no test of causality that it is the forum which has caused this. But also, Dr. Nufama, I think we need to now go into that, Albert, and test how much have we contributed these ideas to some of the things we've seen. But the first policy area is the tax area. From the tax debate to strong administration and scrutiny. 10 years ago, most of the debates in Uganda on tax, they were really not very interesting. They were on, why are you taxing us so much? Why have you failed to tax this and this one? Today, we are mainly having conversations on how well we can support URA to ensure that leakage is not there. But also, we have a challenge at the tax policy. How do we ensure that we expand the base so that more Ugandans are paying tax so that the burden does not fall on a few? And by each of us paying a little, we can get more money. So, when you look here, the revenue to GDP ratio has been growing, but not very impressively. We are still below the Sub-Saharan African average. Can you imagine? Sub-Saharan Africa is the worst region in the world in paying tax. Uganda is below the worst payer of tax. So our tax effort must improve. But look at where we were. 11.5%, we have now come to about almost 14%. 14% last financial year. Has the forum contributed to this? Definitely. We have had a number of very good papers telling us what to do and not to do. We have improved the tax administration, we have improved the policy. We still have a long way to go, but we are working to bridge these gaps. So the reforms have advanced significantly. If you could put on the next slide. But the next test is now, how do we ensure deeper compliance? Compliance, ladies and gentlemen, is needed. But also a broader base, getting more Ugandans into the bracket, and better value for money. Because a taxpayer wants to see a cleaner city, a clean environment, a secure business environment, for them to get the incentive to pay more. That's what we should be now having a conversation on. The evidence from this forum has helped to elevate those areas I've mentioned. As you can see here, the IEGC advanced the following. On the tax base, strengthening compliance, but also the revenue mobilization. But then better designed incentives. It is this forum which started to teach policymakers that tax policy must be driven by incentives, by economics, not opinions. You know, kindly when you are contributing here, don't say in my opinion. This is what should be done. Your opinion is not well researched. First research about it. Let us listen to what the researchers have found by running models and doing all the things which researchers do to give us very well filtered evidence. Greater scrutiny of tax expenditures. You remember the question of tax expenditures. The debate now is changing. My friend Julius here is no longer asking me the questions he used to ask. These exemptions, why are you giving them? Remove them. Now it is, are they effective? Where they are not effective, what are you doing? That conversation is healthy, and it is because of this forum. And then the growth-friendly taxation. Taxation which does not impede growth, which does not damage the ability to grow the economy. Government has implemented the following out of these proposals. Digital tax administration. Now at URA, digital stamps and the automation of all our systems is the norm of the day. Out of this forum, we are now going for IFRIS. At one time, a couple of years ago, people were telling our leaders IFRIS is a new tax. Remove it, Mr. President, IFRIS. Now the conversation has come down to how best can we ensure we roll out this technology to everybody. Then broader taxpayer registration, tax expenditure monitoring. In the URA now we have a unit which tracks our tax expenditures. Doctor, now we can tell which firms are cheating and track them. And we have sunset clauses now. The Director Economic Affairs there these days is the man of sunset clause. In every agreement, he wants to give these beneficiaries. This is good development coming out of these conversations, but also stronger incentive scrutiny. So what has changed now and what is remaining? Tax administration is assessed at 80% implementation. We need to get the 20% gap addressed. Especially digitization has strengthened compliance and revenue mobilization, but we need to still support URA to ensure that they fully get the IFRIS rolled out, ensure that all of these other systems, scanners, are placed at all points of our borders so that no leakage is gotten. But also work on the human beings now. The human beings, because you see, technology is one thing, but technology works with human beings. I think, Honorable Minister, the discretion in our tax administration needs to reduce much further. Allowing a tax officer to decide how much somebody should pay or not is still a problem. And you know these are human beings brought up not in a church. Even those who are brought up in a church, you know what happens sometimes in the church and the mosques there. So some of these human beings have weaknesses of corruption. So we need to work also on the human beings and allow the leaders of these human beings to do their work on those they find culpable. And we are going to do that. Then we need also to deepen compliance, broaden the tax base further, because there are so many people in Uganda who are making money. We heard, and we are researching about it, how deep informality is in the formal sector. Can you imagine this? Informal business operations in the formal economy. People are keeping books of accounts in a black books and a diary of billions of shillings worth. People are conducting trade informally. These are some of the things we need to address to broaden the base, but also to strengthen evaluation of incentives and continue building the trust of the taxpayer. That is the first leg of the policy area on tax. Now on public investment, the architecture is stronger. Now it is execution. As you can see from that graph, when it comes to project selection and appraisal, we have now closed the gap. In terms of the required systems, we have put them in place. Standardized procedures, we have also a development committee in place which scrutinizes and gatekeeps the projects in my ministry. The challenge is how do we support enforcement, ensuring that no project which has not undergone PIMS gets anywhere near the you're welcome, Honorable Minister. Don't you? You can sit with the Honorable Msasis there. I will shift. You're welcome. Honorable Minister of Planning in Uganda. Then integrated bank of projects has also been put in place, where a central repository supports transparency, sequencing, and prioritization of the projects. You no longer get to our PIP just by saying, you know, I've been directed by the Prime Minister, this project must be here. No, you must go through the PIMs and ensure that also the integrated bank of projects, you are there. We sequenced them. Which projects have come in should get out first before we talk of others. Operating guidelines. These ones, we have also started on them. The manuals and project preparation, they have been disseminated, but we still have a gap of about 20% we must close in guiding the ministries and agencies of government on how best to operate projects or public investments. And finally, appraisal capacity. We are building the capacity. We are now at 60%. Skilling, staffing, they are the ones which remain as a big gap. But now we have brought the training home. We used to send our officers abroad to train. We are now working with Makerere University, and we are developing a very powerful system of training ourselves in project appraisal and project implementation. So, my main message here is that the systems largely are existing now, but value now depends on enforcing readiness, delivery discipline, but the results. That's where we are having some unfinished business. On the infrastructure, honorable ministers and the members of this forum, we have expanded infrastructure in the past 9 to 10 years, but the test now is whether this infrastructure is raising productivity. It is something we need to also work on. The national road network, which is paved, has expanded, as you know. Generation capacity of electricity is expanding. Public capital spending is also has more than doubled actually in the past decade. But now the issue is on, are we getting value for money from these investments? The productivity aspect needs to be studied very well. So the third and last takeaway I will give you this morning is that Uganda's PIM problem is no longer mainly the absence of systems. It is failure to enforce them. Going forward, therefore, no readiness, no budget. Any project which is not ready, and readiness is tested in, you have been studied, you have designs which are costed. That's when you enter our budget. But even when you enter the budget, if you don't have life cycle funding, you are not a project. Life cycle funding means counterpart funding and so on. You must have a multi-year allocation. And finally, you need to ensure that you also perform. If you don't perform, no additional allocation. And we shall measure those outputs and outcomes, not absorption alone. The last policy area, and I conclude, is on trade. Uganda's export basket is becoming larger and more diversified. When you look at that figure there, our exports as a percentage of GDP have grown now to 21.4%. The composition on the right-hand side is also clear. Our export composition is changing. Some bars are reducing, some other bars are expanding. The commodities are disappearing, and they are becoming more and more value added. Some of those colors. We need actually to visit the atlas also of the growth center, the growth center, and also the growth lab of Harvard, and you get Uganda and you trace how we have moved from 2003 to date, or from 1990s. Coffee used to be 2/3 of our export value. Now coffee is just hardly 20% of our export. Despite the massive growth in value, it is contributing less, showing you that more other exports are coming in. The trade reforms must move from facilitating trade to building competitive exporting farms. And this has been the message of the Growth Center. How do we make the farms competitive? I will leave you with what the forum has advanced on the left-hand side, what government has implemented in the middle, and what has changed, what remains on the right-hand side. Please ensure that all members get this for the interest of time. You know, we've done a lot of things in 9 years. I need about 9 hours to explain them, but I'm trying to summarize them. Urbanization. You can get to the slide of urbanization. The cities must become production systems, not merely concentrations of people. This has been the key message of the forum over the years. Don't just get a city and you say a village, and you say now this is a city. No, that's not how cities are done. Cities must have production systems. Density must lead to farms. The farms will create jobs. The jobs will get the markets created. When people are employed, they will buy more. And once that happens, productivity will increase further, and John will get more revenue. Those are the cities we want, not the concentration of human beings. Next, the climate. Resilience is now fiscal policy, as we know. Resilience is a fiscal policy. But also it is investment policy. These days, when you don't have climate-smart investments, you will not get money from banks. Each banker now is required by Bank of Uganda to ensure ESG. My governor is not here. I call him Governor ESG. You must be compliant with ESG as a bank to get a green card from the central bank. Therefore, over the years, the forum has taught us how to mainstream climate into development planning, and we are doing this. How to ensure that climate is a fiscal issue, no longer an environmental issue. And how to mobilize climate financing. We have created now a climate finance unit in the ministry. And how to use market mechanisms to ensure that we can leverage good climate in the form of carbon markets and so on. What government has implemented in the middle there, and what we need to add on is on the right-hand side. You look at it. There are 5 commitments to tenfold growth, which we must do, and I conclude. Number 1, on the revenue, we must broaden the base fairly, deepen compliance, and evaluate incentives. That is a recommendation if we want tenfold to happen. Number 2, we must fund fewer, better prepared, high return projects and enforce readiness instead of getting everything done in one single medium term. Let us focus on a few projects and we do them better. It's a lesson we have learned from this forum. In the trade, we must move from facilitating trade to building competitive exporters and suppliers who must not only access markets, but be able to penetrate those markets. On the productive cities, we must turn urbanization into productivity and jobs by servicing the land, building infrastructure, and ensuring that the city is well managed, well governed. And on green growth, we must make resilience investable by building bankable pipelines, mobilizing climate finance, and measure the outcomes. I conclude. The forum, ladies and gentlemen, over the 9 years, now we are in the 10th, has helped Uganda understand what must be done. The next test is whether we can do it faster, at scale, and with measurable results. That's the task we have now. This tenfold growth we are pursuing will not be delivered by another strategy. It will be delivered by execution. I've for years been telling people the only policy we have not written in Uganda is a policy on policy implementation. So we need to move from making speeches and ensure that these things are done all the time, which we commit to doing. I thank you.
Surely that's not enough. Can we appreciate the PSST? Julius, PSST must sit near the minister in case he consults. So Julius, you sit in the middle. There might be some consultation. Sorry. Yeah, the minister might want to consult. Dr. Richard, I think this is a good evaluation over the 10 years, right? This was a deep dive from where we've come 10 years later. We want to appreciate Dr. Albert and the team. Can we appreciate Dr. Albert and the team? Of course, on behalf of the government of Uganda, for this journey. It's very clear, we now know where we want to go, PSST. But like I said, and if you've just come, we had a short assignment just before even the protocols happened, after the anthems, was that we discovered all of us have a contribution to make on the tenfold growth. And so we were asking our neighbors, do you know your responsibility in the tenfold growth? And looking at the presentation, clearly everyone, including the Fourth Estate, the media, we are responsible for delivering, especially on M&E, monitoring and evaluation. We will do a balam on you as a ministry. We now have a new word. I will do a balam on you. We have a new word. That's a good one. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, the next session will be handled by our minister. But you will notice there might be a transition, and it could be a quiet transition to DST at some point, Honorable Minister, right? Because you have another engagement. But we want you to handle this session. So I want to invite the Honorable Minister. He's the chair of this next session. We are looking at global trends that shape Uganda's medium-term growth opportunities. And he has an eminent panel of some really fantastic people from the IGC, the World Bank, the Uganda Development Bank, and an academia, I think. So, Honorable Minister, please come, invite your panel. And you have exactly, Honorable Minister, the PSST ate a bit of our time. So we do not have all the time that had been indicated here. So we'll try and recover some of the time. But I will work with DST. For you, I can't manage you, I can manage DST. So, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Maurice. It's fair that we appreciate PSST once again for taking us through the 9 years. I also would like to welcome my colleague, Honorable Amos Rugoro, the Minister of State for Planning. Welcome. My session is on global trends that shape Uganda's medium-term growth opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda's medium-term growth prospects are being reshaped by major global shifts in technology, trade, and climate. Rapid advancements in technology, particularly artificial intelligence, new health innovations, and cheaper renewable energy are creating new opportunities to boost productivity and transform key sectors that will require stronger investment in skills, digital infrastructure, and innovation. At the same time, changes in global trade and investment are reshaping access to markets and capital, making regional integration and a more strategic approach to attracting investment increasingly important. Meanwhile, growing climate change pressures mean Uganda will need to place greater emphasis on adaptation and climate-smart investments to sustain growth. The key questions before us this morning arising from this topic is: one, how have advances in technology changed the opportunities available to Uganda, and how can they be harnessed to increase productivity in priority sectors? Question two is, in a changing multilateral system, how should Uganda strategically position its trade policy? Question three, what new opportunities are emerging for Uganda in the evolving global development and climate finance landscape? And what financing and institutional mechanisms are needed to scale up adaptation efforts? To answer these questions, I would like to invite the following presenters. Mr. Shahrukh Wani from the Economic Growth Center. Please come forward. Let's welcome him. Dr. Tim Dobman from ICG. Please come forward. Dr. Tim, please, is in the audience. Dr. T, can I be advisor? I'm advised Dr. Tim did not travel, but we already have representation from the IGC. I think it was necessary that we become efficient with our resources. And I would like to invite Ms. Vike Chemtai from the World Bank. Is she around? You are welcome. Let's welcome her to the podium. And lastly, Dr. Francis Mngesije from Uganda Development Bank. Dr. Mngesije, please, you are welcome. The two are going to we have Dr. Ted Narubega. Please come forward. She's also part of the panel. Our presenters and discussants are going to make their statements, and thereafter I will invite the audience to ask questions. We want to begin in the first name, first present. The one who came first, the floor is yours. Please go ahead. You are welcome. You want to use? Okay.
Yeah, that's an important question to say. I've been told 9 hours?
Yes. No, 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Good morning. We can do better. There seems to be a rhythm here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Please allow me to, this will do something. Observing all protocols already stated for the sake of time. It's really hard to present an AI because unlike a lot of other areas discussed today where there's a lot of evidence and data and research, there's not a lot of work which has already been done on this. So there will be a lot of speculation today. So please do allow me to indulge on this. I was thinking of setting myself a challenge on what exactly we want to get out of the next 10, 20, 15 minutes. And I would like us to live with 3 things. One is make a case that AI is really important, not just for our daily jobs using ChatGPT or whatever, but it is really important for economic transformation and economic growth and development, but also both positively and negatively. The second challenge I would like to set myself is to convey the level of uncertainty. And this is really important because the more people you speak to who work on AI, whether on the technology side in labs like Anthropic or OpenAI, or a few economists who are working with them and thinking about this carefully, you will get a very wide range of opinions what is about to happen, and there's very little data for us to predict on what is going to happen. So there's going to be a lot of uncertainty baked into what I will be saying today. So please don't hold me accountable for too much on that. And the third thing, perhaps borrowing from the excellent presentation by the PS, that I will make an argument, even with the uncertainty we have in front of us, we should act. As government, as researchers, and other partners for governments, that we can do a lot more than we have done so far. So I'm a very democratic person, as my colleagues at the IDC would tell. So I wanted to start by a poll of the room. And if you agree, just raise your hands. If you don't agree, please keep them down. I want us to imagine a future where AI is used very widely. So let's think about this. So by 2035, do you think that AI will be widely used by Ugandan citizens in their everyday lives and work? And you can imagine that more than half of the citizens with access to internet. Oh, wow. So this is, can you keep it up for a second so we capture it? Let's see. So I'm looking at about 90% of the room roughly agrees. It's funny, if you ask this in the UK, you get much lower numbers. So we'll talk about this in a bit. Let's think about government itself. By 2035, do you believe that the Ugandan government will use AI in a meaningful way to improve service delivery, things like education, healthcare, and you can think about various different things, writing meeting notes, transcribing meetings using an AI software? Do you agree by 2035 the Ugandan government will be using this in a meaningful AI in a meaningful way in public service delivery? Please raise your hands if you agree. Wow, that seems like a unanimous 100%. Can I add to it? From the people from the Ugandan government here in the room, are you using AI today in your daily tasks and jobs? We have an AI champion right there. Excellent. Okay, final. And this is a question which is completely speculative. By 2035, do you think AI would have helped narrow the gap between rich and poor countries today or expand it further? Do you believe it would have expanded it? Raise your hands. So by 2035, AI would have helped expand the divergence of rich and poor countries. And who believes that it will have reduced the income gaps by 2035? If you don't know, you don't have to. See, I love this optimism. Excellent. This is the optimism working. So 4 people believe it would have reduced, and about, I would say, like 40% believe that it would have expanded the gap, and others, I think, are unsure. Great. We will talk about this a bit more. I'm going to do these 3 quick things, and first I'm going to just start by talking about why we should be thinking about AI more. So, you may have heard about this, or you have seen this, or you might have seen this exact graph. But one of the things which has happened fundamentally with innovation and technology at AI is that AI is now more capable than humans in a lot of things, right? In my case, it's capable in everything, but in more competent people, it might be in a few things. So things like reading comprehension. And this has all happened in the past few years. As you can see, that it has started going up around 2015 onwards, and around 2020, it's when it's really embarked beyond human capabilities. So reading comprehension, image recognition, handwriting recognition, code generation and math problem solving, it's getting up there. In fact, it's now winning a lot of math competitions, AI. So we're seeing that its capabilities are increasingly matching or exceeding human capabilities, which effectively means that AI is becoming really important at doing a lot of things we as humans do. Right? And then the second thing that happened alongside that is the cost of using AI has fallen. A lot of the things we talk about AI as a package of things, let's say machine learning or parts of that, have existed for a while in different ways, but using them has been really costly. But right now you can download, I have ChatGPT and Claude on my phone, you can download things and you can use, partly because of large language models like ChatGPT, very easily. In fact, between 2022 and 2024, the cost of a token of the specific bandwidth of using AI has decreased by 280-fold in 18 months. That means AI is not only becoming really good at doing a lot of things, but it is becoming really, really cheap at doing that. The other thing which is really interesting, and if you look at technology adoption over the past few years, now we don't have data of this across the world very well, but internet is a big technology and personal computers are a big technology. What has happened with AI is it has achieved 50% adoption. That means half of all Americans are using AI in 2.6 years of it being released, the large language models being released. But if you compare that with computers, it took 15 years for half of Americans to get a personal computer. It took 6 years for half of Americans to get broadband access after it became commercially available. And that is really important because if that if capability continues to increase, cost continues to decrease or stay the same, and its adoption and diffusion in economy, particularly in America and Europe and advanced economies in the first instance, continues to increase a lot, that makes it a very substantial technology change in human history. But, as we know from life, that things are not equal. AI's adoption rates are very unequal globally. That map shows the bluer the country, that means more people use AI within a given set of time. It's about 3 months, over the past 3 months. And as you can see, that the highest adoption rates, in fact, are in UAE and Singapore, but they're sort of smaller countries with very high incomes. And then US, Canada, much of Europe, and then Australia and New Zealand have very, very high levels of adoption. And then you will have China, Indonesia, Turkey, India as sort of a second-tier level of adoption levels. If you notice, much of Africa is very, very light. And South Africa has the highest levels of adoption on the continent, but globally, it is one of the lowest rates of adoption. That means very few people in Africa are using AI regularly. It's also very strongly correlated with per capita income. So countries which are richer tend to use AI a lot more, and countries which are poorer tend to use it very little. The other thing to keep in mind is AI development and supply chains. Someone owns the AI model, someone owns the engineering pipeline around compute and things, and they tend to be very concentrated in the US. In fact, the US has 59 of the main notable AI models are American, and then 35 in China, 8 in Korea, and then Canada, France, Hong Kong, Singapore, and the UK has 1 each. The rest of the country doesn't have a significant AI model. That means a lot of the economic gains from producing AI are going to be concentrated in US and then in China and parts of other Asia, especially around hardware development, around compute. So what we know from this is that richer countries are using AI a lot more than poorer countries. Africa is particularly lagging behind, and people who own the models and developing the supply chains of it are largely American, and then with a gap, Chinese. And the rest of the world is just consuming the technology and not actually developing it. And this has big implication on who is going to get the economic returns from AI too, which we will talk about. So, but let's pause for a second, because there's many reasons why we can't in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, use AI. One of them could be smartphone. Do you guys know how many people in sub-Saharan Africa have access to a smartphone? That's basically a phone which you can download apps in and connect to internet. Who thinks 80% or more people in sub-Saharan Africa have a smartphone? No? Not even you, Richard? Who thinks half of people or above in sub-Saharan Africa have a smartphone? 2. Who believes about a third of the people in sub-Saharan Africa have a smartphone? About 33%. Who believes it's under 33%? Who believes no one in Africa has a smartphone? That could be complete. So the right answer is about a third of the people. So a third of the people in sub-Saharan Africa have a smartphone. And smartphones have been available commercially for nearly 2 decades now. So it has taken over 20 years, and we are at 33% adoption levels in sub-Saharan Africa. So there's no reason to think that just because AI is really capable, that it will just spread around the world without any frictions. We have to make policy choices and investments for it to happen. So there are many reasons why that is happening, why AI is not being used very widely in low and middle income countries. One of them is just access to internet. Most people, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa and some parts of Asia, particularly Afghanistan, have very little access to broadband internet. As you can see, the lowest rates, under 20% or so, are in sub-Saharan Africa. Without internet, it's very hard for you to use AI. The second axis is electricity. You can't use AI if you don't have access to reliable electricity. Again, over 500 million people in the world don't have access to a grid. 9 out of 10 of them are in sub-Saharan Africa. So majority of the world's population without access to electricity is also in sub-Saharan Africa. And finally, what you may think about is that a lot of the jobs people do in low and middle income countries, not only in Africa, but also in Asia and Latin America, are kind of jobs you don't need AI for, or you can't use AI for. So this is a really cool graph, which I love. It's from Anthropic. And the wider the blue dots are, it means that that's where, theoretically, AI can be most used for your day job. So if you think about management, business finance, computer mathematics, that's where, and legal areas, that's where AI can help a lot. So you can think about this like coding. The engineers at IGC have become really productive over the past year because they don't have to write most of the code anymore. Claude writes it, and they just have to check it. Now, that means they're very productive, but that also means they might have a threat for a job. No ideas, Jonathan. And then red is how many Americans in those professions are actually using AI. So there's a big gap in adoption of where theoretically you can use AI to do your job or parts of your job where actually it's happening. But you can think about this way. How many people proportionally work in agriculture versus in computer and mathematics in Uganda? Most people work in agriculture, and right now, AI is not the kind of technology we can help in a lot of the work people do in farming and etc. On transport and production, particularly manufacturing, right now the consensus is that AI is not going to make drastic changes to the actual manufacturing, but that can change very dramatically with the integration of robots and artificial intelligence, which China is investing a lot on. And if that happens, if manufacturing becomes far less labor intensive, it already has become less labor intensive over the past few decades, that could have major implication on this export-led growth model where you want to move people from farmers to factories, but then factories don't need a lot of people to work, so they might not be in areas with cheap labor, they might be in areas with cheap energy access or other places of the world, and that has big implications. And this is a graph from Dina at Coefficient Giving, and it's a really good illustration of mapping out all the professions I just mentioned there, per country, and then compare them to how many people in that country work in professions where AI is most exposed to. Again, Russia, the US, Australia, the UK, more people work in professions like management, computer, legal, financial industry, where AI can make the most drastic changes in tasks and change the nature of those jobs. And Africa and Central Asia particularly have very little people who can use AI as part of their main economic activity. So that's sort of a tour around that AI is really powerful, very cheap, can be very useful, but there are all these constraints to actually using it in developing countries. Now, what could AI change? So there's no answer to this question. I spent the past few weeks talking to about 20 people and asking this question, and they gave me 800 answers. So we don't know is the right answer to this. And it's going to depend, I was thinking, on 5 big questions on what happens over the next 2-3 years. And it's important as governments in Uganda and other places to keep a track on how these questions are panning out in global politics and economics. And these are: how large are economic gains from AI adoption in the US, especially? So what you're basically seeing is that America is several years ahead on AI adoption right now. So Uganda and other developing countries can assess how big economic gains are going to be on productivity levels in American firms. Some people estimate that this would be one of the largest shocks, positive shocks to productivity of firms, that companies are going to become really, really productive very, very quickly, akin to industrial revolution or access to internet and energy. If that happens, then American economic growth, GDP growth rates are going to skyrocket over the next few years. And there's a lot of projections. Some of them are quite absurd, some of them are quite conservative, and people don't have a full agreement. But in Uganda, you can see that happening and then make policy based on that. Second, which tasks will AI automate? Which workers will be affected? And how will the labor market shock be? Again, there's no exact answer to this yet. We have some early data indication that some jobs for entry-level jobs in America, which are AI exposed, are decreasing the job advertisements, but we don't know how big that shock is going to be over the next few years, and economists, as usual, can't agree on what's going to happen in that sense. But again, we can see that in America and UAE and parts of Europe first, before that shock pans out if AI adoptions happens at large scale in Africa and other parts. Who will continue to own critical parts of AI supply chain? And this is really important, because if technology becomes really important, AI technology becomes really important in making people and companies really productive, that means the person who owns the technology is going to achieve a lot of profit. And right now, much of that profit is going to be in America. And that's going to shape how global wealth is shaped. A lot of those rents from AI are captured in the US borders. And how big that value will be, we don't know. It can be hundreds of billions of dollars, it could be trillions, it could be tens of billions, it can be in between. How quickly do firms, individuals, and governments in LMICs adopt AI? And this is a big question. How quickly can you get people in Uganda, within the constraints of energy, connectivity, and all the concerns, to who can use AI for jobs, for economically productive reasons, to use it? How fast can the Ugandan government use AI to public service delivery is going to be a question mark, and the same with several other countries in the world. And finally, how will policy choice in the US shape AI deployment and development access? There are 2 particularly big things. One is, will people outside America have access to the best AI models or not? And we saw over the past few months where there was a restriction on the top Claude model by the American government that no non-American can use it. That reversed with some policy changes. But you can theoretically about that the best technology is not allowed to be used by anyone outside America and China. And that will have big implications for growth and parity for the rest of the world. It's basically saying, I will keep all the cars in this country and only Americans can drive a car and everyone has to do something about it. The second thing about access and policy and politics around this, think about carefully, is access to open source models. Open source models are basically models which you download, their parameters are openly available, and then you can run them on your local data centers. So you can make sure the data you use, the AI model, doesn't leave the Ugandan jurisdiction, especially where there's confidential data around tax stuff, you can use those models. These models are available, and they're quite good. They're about 2 months behind sort of ChatGPT and Claude. But most of these models are Chinese, and there is now increasing conversation within Chinese policy circles of restricting access to these models for people outside of China, and that's partly because of economic reasons, but it's also because of safety reasons and security reasons. If someone takes a model, breaks it, they can hack into bank accounts. So people are really worried on how these guardrails for safety and security will be built. Now, there's no answers to this. I won't pretend to have, the panel might have responses, much more profound responses, so we will keep there. But I'm going to do two speculations, and they're both borrowed. The first speculation I borrow is from Rafa, who is a researcher at Coefficient Giving. And it's worth reading this a bit more, but the speculation is basically this, is that imagine that's the purple line is the US. AI has arrived there, and more than half of Americans now use it. And assume that that leads to a lot of economic growth in America. So there's an economic takeoff where you talk about 5-6% GDP growth. America has a lot of compounding GDP growth. Because it compounds over the years, America becomes far richer than countries which don't have access or adoption to AI models, and every other country, particularly in Africa, but also parts of Asia, where AI adoption, that means using AI in your economy, comes 10 years down the line. Your positive economic shock is going to be later, but that gap would have increased. I like the example he uses in his study about Mali. So in 1800, Mali was about 4 times poorer than the UK. And with the Industrial Revolution and the steam engine in the UK, today it's about 25 times poorer. The gap between the rich countries and the poor countries increased because of Industrial Revolution. The argument Rafa and other people, researchers are making now, is that that is going to increase quite substantially more over the coming few years. And if the adoption rates are as high as we've seen in the US, this won't be a 10-year horizon, it might be a 5-year horizon, so it will be very, very quick how this would happen. This is all speculation at this point. The second speculation is AI will change the kind of jobs you can create. So this is from Eric at Stanford, and the study is largely American, but you can speculate it in Ugandan context. Is basically if you're the lowest end, this is the kind of jobs where we think AI will not be able to impact those jobs as significantly, and if you're at the highest end, those jobs will be most significantly impacted. Now, you may think, well, most people in Uganda work in agriculture or cleaning, construction, repair, manual work, so AI will not impact job creation. But it's worth asking yourself is what the growth strategy looks like for Uganda and for other developing countries. So if the goal is to move people, as India and Philippines and Kenya have done, to move people into service exports, let's say call centers or business process outsourcing or BPOs, that is going to be one of the highest exposed likely jobs in the world. That means the growth strategy for developing countries might be drastically impacted because the jobs a lot of countries created to become rich might not be the jobs which will be offshored because AI can do a lot of this work at home for American or European firms. And that has big implications for how we think about the ladder to development on how we move from agriculture, subsistence to other forms of tradable jobs. Again, a note on production here. There is no consensus on this, but it's likely that if service industry, that means legal, technology, and these industries are first impacted by AI, it will be very likely that manufacturing will also be impacted as a second round. And that is, again, a massive implication. That means the factories, even if they move, they may not employ a lot of people anymore. So you might get a foreign direct investment in Uganda to build a factory to produce something, but it will not need that many people to work at because AI can work collaboratively with people to do a lot of the tasks. But it also means the comparative advantage of having cheaper labor might decrease. That means countries might benefit, companies might look at countries with cheaper energy access or access to their sort of market as bigger determinants of where they invest and where they base manufacturing. Again, broad speculations, but this could be really significant implication on economic growth. So how do you respond? Again, I have some theories. So the way people think about in AI world what will happen with AI timelines, what is going to happen over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, you can split them in 3 buckets. So the people who say it's going to be quite slow, right? That AI's impact on society will be slow, similar-ish to where we are today. That means you will use ChatGPT and other things for helping you do stuff, but it won't displace large amounts of people. Other people believe it's going to be fast, that because AI capabilities are increasing and the cost is decreasing, a lot more things in your companies and firms and governments can be done by AI. That means its impact on how companies structure, firm structure is going to change. That means there will be displacement. That means some people will lose jobs. And then there are people like me, who are slightly pie in the sky, who believe that AI will be transformative. That means it will be akin to Industrial Revolution. There will be mass reorganization of how our companies and societies function because technology will change what is possible. Think about electricity. So one way of thinking about it is AI is going to be the next electricity or the next mobile phone. I think it will be the electricity, but a lot of people think it will be the mobile phone. That means something you can use, but it doesn't displace your job in most cases. If it's transformative, then that's massive economic shock coming ahead for developing countries. And we will be able to see that in American economy and society play out. Now, when you don't know what's going to happen, my suggestion is that you focus on the fundamentals. What you can control, not what we can't control. We can't control what the American government does or labs do or how technology innovation works, but what we can control is building the foundation that whatever might happen with different scenarios of AI playing out, we are able to respond and create good jobs for Ugandans and good prosperity for the people in Uganda and developing countries. So the first thing is getting better data. The thing is, you can't measure a shock coming to your economy if you don't know what's happening. In the US, for example, I found this quite funny, is that there's no single category in the US labor market data which captures software and computer jobs, even though they have such a big technology sector. A lot of countries don't know if AI is impacting some parts of your economy if we don't have good labor force, labor market indicators which governments can capture. We need reliable electricity and connectivity. There's no scenario of AI working out. If people don't have electricity and don't have broadband and internet, that's going to be helpful in any version of the reality which pans out over the next few years. Digitization of firms, we heard from the government that there's a lot of focus on, let's say, tax policy, but how can more companies in Uganda use digital services, computers, basic software to improve their efficiency, but that means it will be more easy for them to use AI to help improve their production or whatever they're producing. I think it's really important for governments to have teams of people who understand AI. This is really critical because it's really easy to get someone from the outside the government to come and speak about AI, but fundamentally governments need teams of engineers and experts, economists working on this topic inside the government. So Ugandan government knows exactly what it's buying, what it's promoting, what kind of incentive structures it's setting up. And a lot of governments, in the UK, there are now 3 institutes, centers within the government who work on AI. The US government has full-time staff working on this, Singaporean, UAE, Saudi, etc. That's a really important thing. And then, just to summarize, then one of the other important things is rules for data access. AI runs on large amounts of data. AI adoption, AI use cannot happen in Uganda if government departments don't have data infrastructure. That means they don't have clean data sets which can be shared with people who want to use it to build AI tools to improve delivery of services. And that's a big constraint in most of the world. I think fundamentally with sort of this no regret investments, one of the things government can do is start by thinking about where AI can help you in delivering your strategy and your objective. And I think this is one of the biggest areas governments and countries can start with, because while the private sector is the engine of growth, governments are usually the single largest actor in any economy, including in Uganda. So ask yourself, and I like these sort of dots, because these dots kind of represent all the specific things you do in government. You might write speeches. You might go to an excellent economic growth forum once a year. You have to provide healthcare services, so a community health worker has to diagnose the patient and understand if this patient is on high risk or low risk. You have to scan x-rays. You have to decide who might be cheating on their taxes, who might not be. All these questions. Wherever there's large amounts of pattern data, AI can usually help. So one of the things I like a lot, for example, AI can help read x-rays a lot better than humans now in most countries. In the NHS, in the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, now 4 million x-rays are read by AI, which is much more quicker and much more productive. So if you're a nurse, you don't have to sit there and take that cognitive burden on you, and you can use an AI tool to help you make the decision. Again, something which is fairly low cost to use can help you meet your current objective, improving access to healthcare. The other thing you can do is, you have a lot of tax data. You want to detect an anomaly. Maybe someone is cheating on their VAT and how the receipts are coming in and how much they're claiming. What AI can do very easily is look at that data and give you a list very quickly of the firms where their behavior has changed drastically from what they were doing in the past 3, 4, 5 years. So you can tell your auditors not to go and check everything, but focus your energy on those firms. Again, something which has big time and efficiency gains for the government and is also technically very feasible and very cheap to do. I like to think about it in like few buckets on how AI can help governments. First is it can identify these emerging patterns. So you're understanding your economy, your data, your society better. It can help. It can help governments decide where you have 2, 3 options and you want to decide, I have, $1 million to spend and I have these 5 different options where I want to do a cost-benefit analysis, or I want to understand more forecasting better. I want to use the data I have in the government to decide which one of this option will have the better result. AI can really help in specific parts of that. It can target, allocate resources as a consequence. It can help deliver. So think about how many routine things governments have to do, classifying responses, moving things to the right department. You can have dashboards. Rwandan government has something like this in which, sorry, should I
Please conclude.
Yeah. Can I have 2 minutes? Right. So anyways, governments can be these big early adopters. But one thing to remember is technology pays off at the binding constraint, and we know this from economic evidence over the past several years on other forms of technology. If AI can help give better agriculture advice, but if the farmer doesn't have any credit, there's not going to be much impact. So understanding and spending some time thinking about what the binding constraints are and where AI can actually help is useful. I won't have time to go into these examples now, but very quickly, there are a couple of mistakes which I think the government can avoid, and one of them is sort of this blanket ban on using technology because of privacy or not being able to comprehend what it can actually do. So it's important to think about this very carefully and think about the productivity gains of AI as a trade-off whenever there are rules and regulations written on AI. The other thing is, I think, relying on external suppliers. External suppliers are really important and every government needs them, but it's really critical to have state capacity. And this is basically a summary of the things I mentioned earlier, but 5 things which I think governments can do, but we can get this to in Q&A. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Wani, thank you so much. I think now we know that when we adopt AI so fast, we become richer. Those who adopt later will become poorer. But also another question is that AI is taking many of the entry jobs. So what's the future of the young children in the environment where AI is determining everything? And also with the speed at which AI is growing, shall we still be relevant in 10 years? I now want to invite the next presenter. Please, you have the floor. 10 minutes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Honorable. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here on this stage. You can hear me now? Okay, sorry about that. It's a deep pleasure to be here. For all protocol observed, this is my 2nd Economic Growth Forum, and as was said earlier by Dr. Gobi, this is the place where you have the very, very contentious discussions, and there's freedom to speak exactly what you want to say, share, and debate. And I think that's a huge, huge, huge advantage. So thank you to the IGC and the Ministry of Finance for continuing this dialogue over time. So my my discussion today, which I will try to be very brief, 15 minutes, will be to talk about the other issue that is currently happening on the global landscape. We've heard about AI and how disruptive that is becoming, and where there are potential opportunities, and maybe where there are some challenges that may affect different jobs and different sectors in the country. But climate, I think, as has been stressed several times, is something that we're seeing every single day. You see it when you go to buy your sweet potatoes in Kalere, or you see it when the yields from your mother's farm have not been as huge as they have been previously. So this is something close to home. But what I want to stress is that this is no longer an issue that is hampering at the micro level. This is a macro issue. It is having effects that are reverberating across the global economy, and we need to tackle them immediately. We already know Uganda is doing very well in terms of mainstreaming climate. Those are some of the takeaways from the past economic growth forums. But what is the next step? And I quite liked how you phrased it, Dr. Ramadan, of what is the next steps in terms of implementation to ensure we go to the next level. So here I'm going to talk about the trade and climate stand, where two of the session's key questions come, and exactly how Uganda should position its trade policy in a changing multilateral trading system, and whether there are any new opportunities that we can actually take advantage of. Yeah, and here I shall, of course, place an emphasis on the different policies that are coming across the globe that we keep hearing about every day. So my next slide here is just an overview of what my presentation is going to look like. So I'll skip right at that and then go straight to what is happening globally. So we hear global trade right now is facing some problems, so to say. We hear that almost every single day from the policymakers, from the actual exporters, from the importers. We hear so many issues that arise just in daily conversations that we have. But at the very global scale, what is happening? What we're seeing here is the rise of industrial policies. I think there was a nod to industrial policy, talked about earlier. But what industrial policies are doing right now, especially coming from some of the bigger powers such as the US, are undermining the global trading system as we have known it over time. The multilateral trading system has rules at the WTO that we have all, committed as countries to follow. But some bigger economies, such as the US, are waking up sometimes and saying that maybe we should do something a little bit differently, because obviously they're trying to pursue certain gains from the economy. So these tariffs are being put across, but they're coming across as quite disruptive. And that graph there from the Financial Times simply just shows the evolution of the tariffs over time since Jan 2025 to about mid-2026. What was announced in the blue versus what was actually applied. So if you look up until July 2026, what was actually announced came to about 10.8%. And then what was actually applied is 6.9%. So am I trying to say that it's a lot of noise sometimes that we hear? Maybe, maybe not. But the jury is still out there. And then obviously we're hearing a lot of the different complexities arising from geopolitics, what's happening at the Strait of Hormuz. All of those supply chain blockages cause some shocks to the trading system. So these policies are out there. Countries are waking up one morning and putting them. Have they been effective? Usually every time in an economic setting when somebody discusses something to do with import substitution or increasing tariffs, their sentiments are usually trying to get a better position for their particular country. They're trying to protect their industry or trying to protect something that they want to see perhaps take a different direction. Now, have we seen results? Let's just take the example of the US as I was showing earlier. Still, this is from the Financial Times. When you look at what has happened to manufacturing jobs, this, if this I might add, was one of the key points that was raised by the president at that time, during elections, to say that, I'm going to make sure I increase the manufacturing jobs. So, have all these tariffs actually increased those jobs? Not really. As you can see, a decline over time. We're seeing that jobs have not necessarily grown in the manufacturing space, and yet most of these industrial policies are trying to gear towards increasing manufacturing. Services are obviously the other angle. Most countries want to get their economies, getting into. But then from what we're seeing, this manufacturing trend, we're not seeing the gains that we expect to see. But what is becoming very, very clear is that we're having a lot of unpredictability. Unpredictability is not good for business. Investors are not okay with coming to a land where there's a lot of unpredictability. Now, what does all of this mean for Uganda? What is happening globally? What it means is rethink policies that target import substitution directly. How you design your industrial policy needs to consider the market, how the market is functioning. And there are many different, flanking policies you can put in place to ensure that whatever industrial policies you design actually work. Not just, you put tariffs and then we're not seeing the gains that we actually want to see, right? Now, what, because we have a rules-based trading system, what is also important is for us to try and safeguard that. Now, why is it important that we safeguard the rules? Because if we do not have a level playing field of rules that we can all play on, then it becomes problematic over time, as we are seeing. Now, I've talked about what's happening on trade. I want to talk a little bit briefly on what's happening on the climate front. Now, for climate, we're seeing that the records keep falling. This needs no repeating. Everybody sees record. Every time you hear record high heat, labor productivity is reducing over time. The World Bank recently produced a climate change country development report, which has a lot of this analysis in detail, where you can see actual modeling impacts on the different sectors in the economy, what could happen in the long term to the different sectors that we have. So it goes, without mentioning, climate it's affecting us deeply. Now, and in the last economic forum, I talked about this as well. What this means for Uganda, the two main points, is your production structure. It's going to change what you're going to produce and be able to sell to the market. Right now, we know we're a largely agricultural-based economy. We saw that in that economic complexity graph of exports. However, this might change over time. So we need to think about that critically and think about where to pivot so that we can still continue trading competitively in this green transition. And then the second one is competitiveness. We hear that a lot. I am a huge preacher of competitiveness, I think similar to what was discussed earlier, because this is the only way we can actually extract the gains that we want from the market. So I'll share a couple of things that can help us improve competitiveness, at least from the export standpoint. Then there's some opportunities here, goes without saying. In terms of finance, we know what's happening in COP30. They pledged to add more trillions, more money into this. So we'll see, of course, how that is rolled out. But this is an opportunity to take advantage of the financing that exists. On carbon markets, Article 6 is now operational. This is basically the one that sets the rules of carbon trading and whatnot, if you've heard about that. And Uganda, we know we're very blessed in terms of our renewable energy. We have tons of good forests. So we have sellable assets. This is something we need to remember. The third thing is on the premiums, right? We've seen that climate, unfortunately, it has good and bad issues, sort of impacts. There are some regions which suffered significantly because they got some losses growing coffee in some years. And who benefited? Uganda benefited at some point because our production at that time was pretty decent. So this is just to highlight that it's a little bit of a dance, and it's important to think about critically and strategize on how to leverage it. Now, this also goes without saying, it's an economic issue. We see that in a lot of our modeling work. Every time you try to simulate what would potentially happen to GDP, trade, jobs, labor, every single aspect of the economy, every time we model that, we see potential significant negative impacts that could happen. So this is something for us to remember. It's not only fiscal, it's all a broader economic issue. And acting is a net win here as well. Our World Bank modeling shows that, you could gain a potential 4.4% of GDP by 2050 if you do implement some of these adaptation investments. Now, the green transition. How can we move from the green transition towards the strategy? Yeah? How can we, as early movers, capture the market? We saw from the previous presentation, AI early movers managed to capture the market and move quickly. What can we learn from what other countries are doing? We know China has embraced this green transition very well in terms of its production capacity, and it's of course number one right now, the top exporter of many of these green technologies. Now, this also shows us that there's a potential opening for countries such as ourselves, like Uganda, to get into producing some of these commodities, especially for our neighboring countries, whether it's in the parts and components of some of these renewables or whatnot. The idea is there's potential to actually leverage what exists. Now, is there a cost of stepping back? If we just sit there and wait and observe this green transition to happen, different countries and economies talk about it and actually act, on our front, if we do not act, it's very costly. We see that as many of these policies were put in place, capital did not pause. Global green energy transition investments still hit a record, couple of trillion. So investments are still entering a lot of the green space. That's where the money is flowing. We heard earlier when it comes to banking, that many people are increasingly taking that into consideration when coming from ESGs to standards that they've put into place. So late movers are going to pay more. This is something that we need to take into account. Now, I want to focus just to illustrate this issue by examining two main policies that we're hearing about a lot in the green trade and climate space. And this is the EU CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, and then the EUDR, which is the EU Deforestation Regulation. Now, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, this is basically a slapping of a tax at the EU border on goods that have high carbon intensity, or they're not able to showcase that they did have a carbon tax in their home countries. And this touches upon several of those commodities, iron, aluminium, etc. Maybe not that we don't have significant exports of this, so it's probably not a significant problem. However, the EU Deforestation Regulation directly touches coffee. What is our top export? It's coffee. We have seen, yes, we're diversifying the economy. It has increased, we're exporting different things. However, our biggest billion-dollar earning commodity is coffee. So we need to pay attention to this EU Deforestation Regulation and what that means for us. Now, the same logic applies here. Market access, we're going to see it. These CBAM and EUDR are just the new ones that are talked about now. But increasingly, we're going to see a trend where many of these policies are coming into play, and they could potentially affect Uganda's export market access. So, as I was trying to tell you earlier, for the CBAM, Uganda's CBAM exposure is limited today, but we have a scope that could expand. Right now, it's targeting those aluminium, hydrogen, fertilizers, etc. But there could come a time where the scope expands. And if it does expand and it touches upon some of our exports, what does that mean for our export competitiveness? So it is something to think about. And here I just wanted to put Uganda against the different African countries, showing here that Mozambique is the one going to be hardest hit, simply because it has a huge share of exports of aluminium to the EU. Now, so we need to watch this scope, and what this teaches us is we need to think about how to measure emissions from what we produce. Our exports need to be able to showcase their carbon sort of competitiveness in different markets. Now,
the EUDR, as I was trying to highlight earlier, this is the immediate problem that we need to think about today. And Uganda is one of the most hardest hit, most exposed sort of economies. And this is simply because when you look at what we export, Uganda is the first one there. It's largely coffee and cocoa. Now, these on the African continent, we export a huge share to the EU, so it's going to become a problem for us if we're not able to showcase that this coffee and cocoa has been grown on, non-deforested land. So we need to be able to show that. How do we show that? We need to build traceability systems. We need to put the infrastructure in place to ensure that we can showcase that, hey, my coffee bag here actually came from land that was not deforested. Otherwise, you lose the market access, and that becomes a problem. Now, and there, this is, just with different African countries to show the degree of exposure, and you can actually have a look at this later on. What I want to highlight today is what Uganda has done to prepare for the EUDR so far. So I have to give credit to the government. They have actually made some steps to try and respond to this EU deforestation regulation. And some of these steps have included, a task force that has been put in place to discuss some of the issues that are needed. Oh, sorry, it's going to a different slide. Yes, to discuss these issues. Then in May 2025, some farmers have been registered. As I said, the idea is for you to be able to showcase that for your coffee exports or cocoa, this has not been grown on deforested land after 2020. So there's a time cap to it. And earlier this year, we saw that there have been a significant amount of farmers that have been geo-mapped, and this completion targeted. Well, April has already passed, so maybe this has already been completed. We'll check that out. But now, going ahead, in December 2026, this is the big timestamp we're looking at, and this is because the EUDR is going to apply to large and medium operators, and that could have significant adverse effects on huge coffee and cocoa exporters. Now, what does this mean? How does Uganda compare with its other neighboring countries, its friends that also export this coffee and cocoa? Now, what was done earlier, the EU did some sort of risk class assessment just recently to rank and rate where countries are on the degree of risk of deforestation. And unfortunately, Uganda is standard. Standard may sound okay, but Kenya and Rwanda, they have low. Kenya and Rwanda, our neighbors, have low risk class. What does this mean? This means the EU will not be scrutinized, their due diligence or their compliance efforts will not be as costly as it will be for us. We are at the same level as Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, Honduras, which is in another part of the world. But the idea here is, as Uganda, can we move from standard risk status to low risk status? And how do we do that? There are a couple of things that we can do. So here I try to put a timeline of sorts of a hypothetical timeline of what could be done to take us to that point where we are, trading deforestation free, and we're able to meet these compliance standards. But not only meet, we're able to trade competitively. And in those first blue parts, the elevating the EUDR task force that has been done. Now, one of the last points of the blue bars is campaigning for low risk status. If we're able to campaign for this by showcasing all of the efforts that we have done, this is going to bring us real money. The compliance costs are going to reduce, and you'll be able to export as much, or if not even more, as you were before. And of course, it's understandable. There's some parts of the country that, yes, deforestation occurred, so we may have to lose out on that. But then there are other parts where we can showcase that it has not happened. Now, that's the first step. The yellow, orange in the middle there are the next bigger things that need to be done. You need to complete this farmer registration and geomapping, ensure that the national traceability system is rolled out, and make sure that there is some sort of screening that happens for all of these different forests. Now, the next step would be having a shipment that is compliant. And I'm going to talk about this more in the next slide. But the idea is, if you're able to showcase that I have my 6 containers of coffee, cocoa, have met A, B, C, D, E, F, G of what is expected from the EU side, then it sort of creates a clear pathway for all the other shipments that could come over time. So what I'm trying to say is that from our perspective, we should think about showcasing that we meet, and that will help us build that competitiveness. So we move from compliance into status. And here I'm going to propose 3 continental plays, cognizant of time, 3 continental plays that Uganda can sort of move forward with. Because I think Uganda has tried to do the groundwork on its own, but as we have seen with all the different policies and different actions on the continent, it's better if we go together as a cohesive unit. There's strength in numbers. I used to work at the WTO, and I would see when people, when our delegations come, and you can see Africa, some people speak a different language, some countries speak a different language. It creates a lot of confusion, and Africa is not able to speak as one, and we're not able to get our positions clear or even heard, because they look at us as a confused group of people. So, as a continent, I think Uganda has the potential to lead and put a lot of emphasis on bringing together the different African countries to ensure that whatever we try to push for in the global fora actually gets heard. There is really strength in numbers. 54 African nations, it's a big thing. We've had all the gains that could happen from the African Continental Free Trade Area. We're already seeing them. So we can also apply that on all of the different things that we have. Now, here, I'm trying to borrow from what I saw earlier in Addis Ababa. There was this standard created between ARSO and the Inter-African Coffee Organization, which is basically an African standard for sustainable coffee. So there's precedence, yeah? This standard is trying to incorporate this EUDR traceability and due diligence requirement. So if we have this African standard, then we negotiate with the trading partners, in this case, the EU, that you can, for mutual recognition, so that they take whatever we give them, not having to, let us first see whether you have actually completed. But that mutual recognition is important to ensure that we have this smooth trading relationship. And once we're able to have this mutual recognition, we try and replicate for different commodities on the market.
If you can try
yes,
as much as possible summarize, because
sure.
we are fatally behind schedule.
Sure. Sorry. Okay, so I will finish this. So the first one was having an African standard. Then the second one is having carbon pricing and measurement, reporting and verification on African terms. It is possible. Right now, we're only hearing the things from the EU terms. We have to comply. But if we all come together, we can actually negotiate and put proposals that fit African terms and give us a better advantage in this global forum. And if you're able to measure your data here, you can certainly you own the data, and if you own the data, then it's you have a greater advantage or greater negotiating position. The last point is using this institutional machinery that already exists. I've seen a lot of efforts already. Dr. Sam Mugume has been trying to organize the African Ministers of Finance for COP32, and I think that's a good example of what could be scaled up for very many different aspects, not just finance. In this case, it would be for trade or other different issues. These institutions exist for us to collaborate and ensure that we get a strong position when we go to this fora abroad. Okay, so I will end with, alone, Uganda will have to comply. But if we come together as Africa, we can certainly negotiate, and negotiate strongly and be heard, because that's what we need to be competitive in the future. Not just to comply, we actually move and create some of these policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Vicky. I apologize for making you summarize, but I think key messages have come through. Alone, we cannot be able to do much, but together, we should be able to negotiate better terms on this climate finance, and there are quite a number of initiatives, and we thank you very much for highlighting them. In between your presentation, the minister had to go for the another assignment outside here together with the PSST, and they have asked me to finish as a chair of this session. I now welcome discussant number 1 on this panel to discuss the topic, and that's Dr. Francis Mwesije from UTB. You have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, DST. I will also stand on the existing protocols. And my task is easy. I think Teddy and I have been tasked to discuss the 2 presentations. So it's basically to contextualize them, to ask those questions, I would say intriguing questions, because as Shahrukh and Vicky presented, I hope I pronounced your name well, I kept wondering and asking myself, how can Uganda, for example, for AI, how can Uganda adopt? How can we not just catch up, but fast track? Same with green financing. From the scheme of things, I think in Africa, we have about 2% of the global green financing that goes to Africa as a whole. We know, again, in terms of contribution as a continent, we only contribute 3% to the global CO2 emissions. But we bear the blunt, the heaviest risk. Whenever climate changes, we suffer as a country. And I think PSST provided that context well when he showed us what happened in 2017. The first drop in our growth was due to climate change, prolonged drought. So how can we, as Uganda, best prepare ourselves? How can we adopt? How can we change the trend? And that will be the center of my discussion. And the 2 questions that I asked, in addition to those that I've mentioned, is can the current financial architecture allow us to catch up or fast track? And then 2, can we still achieve this if, for instance, we still look at the dichotomy between public investment, public projects, and private projects? And I'll speak to that. I think if we are to catch up, especially, again, giving an example of AI, we need, 1, to enhance our preparedness, to structure bankable projects. We need a movement, in a way, from what we call financing of projects to projects financing, and I'll explain that. The financing of projects and how the current architecture works from the financing side is you get this, what you'd call corporate projects, well organized, they are running projects, and our systems, our compliance guidelines are also based on that we look at the existing projects. There is what we call KYC, how are they structured, how are their cash flows, using retrospective data and information. But I think if we are to move and achieve the tenfold growth strategy, we need to move to what we call project financing, which is based on future cash flows. That means that will allow us to support and finance data centers, BPOs, innovations. There are quite a number of innovations in different universities that have not been commercialized because they do not have the financing. Quite often we look at government. Government should come up and we see hubs and we should see these initiatives. But how can the financial system, commercial banks, development finance institutions, better structure their financing arrangements to support these businesses? And that's why I ask, can the current financial architecture allow us to move these businesses in AI, data centers, and so forth, and fast track? There is something we need to do there. So the one I've talked about of financing, rather project financing, calls for SPVs. If you've heard of special purpose vehicles, it's basically you can look at a greenfield, it's a new project, you look at how it is structured, you look at its governance, you look at its preparedness, and you model future cash flows, and those become your collateral. I don't need you to tender in land as collateral or any other form of physical collateral, but I can construct a project that way. And that's the direction Uganda Development Bank is now taking. And I think that's where we need to go, even commercial banks. The conventional wealth financing, as we've known it, has led to some results, and I provide some examples. Currently, if you look at our private sector credit, over 65% of it goes to mortgage, buildings and infrastructure, call it real estate. It goes to personal loans because it's clear to track KYC. And it goes to trade, largely, which is importation of goods. 12% goes to manufacturing, and about the same, 12.3% goes to agriculture. And if you asked, it is the transaction cost, it is the risk. Now, if you talk about AI, if you present a project, a huge potential project to a financier, one of the things they will ask is the usual KYC, what is its history, how is it performing, what is the collateral? Now, some of these good projects are coming from youth. They are coming from universities. They will not have all this. So how can we best support our businesses to grow and to catch up? Because if we don't do that, we won't. And I liked, again, Dr. Richard's presentation, mentioning about the dwindling fiscal space, the ODS space, because now we cannot only rely on government to fund such projects. And we have seen in the past 5 years since COVID-19, our debt to GDP ratio increased from below 35% to now 52%. So what does that mean? And I think even in the budget, almost 40% of our budget goes to debt financing, gross, interest and principal. So it means we can no longer rely on government to fund those initiatives. We have to do something as the financial system, as an industry. And so that's why I think we need to rethink the financial architecture. Enhance preparedness. And two, I'll speak to a need to move to what we would call financial or market-based instruments. And someone talked about them. We need to go to bonds. Our capital markets are not contributing significantly to this. Now, there are quite a number of bond structures out there. We've heard of green bonds, sustainability bonds, the sukuks, and now China has pandas and so forth. But how do you move there? Because you cannot, and I see the government is doing a lot through the Ministry of Finance, Capital Markets Authority, but we need to do this as an industry. Beyond even these leaders, that we need the financial industry to be part of this movement. You cannot issue a bond if you do not have a pipeline of bankable projects. Because that's number one, that's what they will ask. And who has that? Who can vote that? I think it comes back to what the industry can do. I'm talking about how we can realize this, how we can bring it home. We need to go to blended financing structures. And in the blended financing, you are talking of now an ecosystem. Who brings what? We have government with concessional and cheap money that can come in the preparation. Many finance institutions are shy in financing preparation, structuring, feasibility, and pre-feasibility studies. But once that project is commercially viable, also we can get partners. World Bank can come in and others to provide de-risking instruments, guarantees, and so forth. And I'm talking of any form of projects. It could be a data center. It could be any other huge infrastructure, energy infrastructure that they say it is required for you to ably achieve this AI agenda. So if you get government come in, and then you have development financing that can come in with concessional and long-term financing. But once this project is well structured, now you can crowd in commercial banks. And that's what blended financing helps you achieve. That you get to get syndication, you get to get co-financing, you get to finance at scale major projects. Otherwise, we shall still talking of SME financing and youth. And if you do that, you create an economy that can pay taxes. Because you're creating these mega projects in AI, green projects that are well structured, that are commercially viable, that are formal, that are going to pay taxes. And that's how we link this entire ecosystem. That without this, you will not achieve, we've done well, and the presentation showed 13.6 tax to GDP ratio, a commendable movement. But if you're to raise that to the magnitude and the size that we want, we need to do something differently. And so I think, again, to bring this, to contextualize, bring it home, we need to go into blended financing structures, commercial instruments, bonds, and then we need to generate that pipeline of bankable projects, large ticket-sized projects. SMEs are good, inclusion is very good, and we can do it through conventional mechanisms, but we need to move this economy to the tune that we want $500 billion economy in 15 years. We need to do things differently. And I think we need to start by changing the financial architecture. Secondly, and I think again, UBA last year was tasked by the Ministry of Finance to come up with a strategy to financing the tenfold growth strategy. And in their estimates, they showed that private sector credit, that financing generally needs to include to about 930 trillion Uganda shillings by 2040. That part of that, 440 trillion, should come from, as part of private sector credit, from commercial banks, development finance institutions. When we did that analysis, private sector credit was 26 trillion. Now just imagine that movement in 15 years from 26 trillion, now it stands at around 490 trillion would come from capital markets. How do we achieve again without reworking the system? I want to conclude. I've been given 10 minutes, so I think that's important. And I think in the scheme of things, as I discussed, there should be a fuzzy line between public and private projects. PPPs are going to become a thing. If you're to move SPVs, special purpose vehicles, you are going to look at projects that are structured by both, financed by both. Lastly, on climate financing, and I think that's also where we want to put emphasis, preparedness. When PSST was presenting, he showed a good, on public investments, showed a good journey, but when it came to feasibility studies and preparation, I think we're at 36% or 60% if I recall. 60. That's where the gap was. Now, we need to build capacity. One of the reasons as to why we do not tap into green financing, largely it's capacity. As a country, we have a green taxonomy. And again, PSS talked about that preparedness, the environment. That's good environment. We have a national green taxonomy, we have a strategy. But at individual institutional level, we do not have, those have not been translated into institutional specific taxonomies. We just generated one at UDB, a green finance taxonomy, which speaks to our investments, the sectors we do support. But when you talk about adaptation, mitigation, environmental co-benefits, what does that mean to a financier? What should we look out for when we are structuring these projects?
Excellent.
So I think we need to go to that. And lastly, I think we need to go in a coordinated manner. And we need, in addition to all this, we need to enhance our MRV capabilities, the ability to track, the ability to measure, the ability to monitor the impact. I do submit. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause for that discussion. And I think I don't want to attempt to summarize what he has said. And I know all this is being recorded and captured properly for purpose of our discussions and take-home messages. Let me now have the second discussant, Madam Dr. Teddy Nalubega. You equally have 10 minutes. The adage that time is money is really costing us a lot because of the time that we have gone through this. Please, you have 10 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Like Dr. Francis has said, our role is to bridge what has been presented by Vicky and that name. Okay, yeah. So from the presentation, it's clear that AI is going to transform everything, like changing the entire civilization. If we are to look at AI as simply as a tool, I think we shall be short of the actual benefit. From what Vicky has presented, the global market on the green energy, the green trade, we are seeing that accessing markets are being tagged on other issues. From my presentation, I want to clearly say that the AI capabilities should allow us not to lag behind, but rather bridge the gaps. As presented, the electricity, the skills, the economy, the structures, all those should be bridged within our efforts. Answering the 3 questions that have been presented in the discussion, how have the technological advancements changed Uganda's opportunities, and how can we harness them? Technology alone cannot give us the benefits we want. However, if we identify the binding constraints as presented, we can leverage the technology. The binding constraints can be in the agro-industrialization, in the mineral and oil, in the trade. How can we use the binding constraints that we are seeing that already the ministers shared as a way of using technology to bind them from the resources that are scarce to Uganda? How can we use AI to automate those resources? Apologies. How can we use AI to bridge the gap in the scarce resources that we have in terms of human resource and the financial resource? My take is accessing international markets is increasingly being priced. Can I sit, please?
Excuse me? Okay, it seems there is something that she is supposed to put together. And, you can see the notes from the other side. So please use your remaining 7 minutes.
Yes.
When you are seated. I'm sorry, I wish you had said so earlier.
Yeah, I saw it and I couldn't.
Sorry, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So, from what I have just presented, apologies, I couldn't see my notes very well. Yes. So from what we have just heard, technology can be used to turn what we have as binding constraints in Uganda, to turn it into a solution. The issue of traceability, from what Vic has presented, all the global trends are showing that we need traceability. We need to trace where the deforestation took place, or where there is any issue to do with ESG. So if we can build a system, and a traceability system, that can translate that into a data infrastructure, which we can then use as our market infrastructure. At the end, use it as our financial infrastructure. So what I'm trying to show is we can build an AI system that can track, using the data, that can track the different elements, the different data on which we need to trace, then use the data to put together a data infrastructure that can then be used as a market infrastructure to market these products, and then with that market infrastructure, use it as a financial infrastructure. So from what has been presented, we can clearly see AI being integrated in the traceability infrastructure, convert it into a financial infrastructure by using the data that has been tracked as evidence of what is possible. On the issue of AI as Africa being left behind, evidence has showed that the different organizations are using AI. In Uganda, we have evidence of URA using AI. We have evidence of the weather forecast, deeply embedding AI in them. We have evidence in the financial institutions where AI has been embedded. Mobile money, we have evidence of where AI can be used. We can leapfrog, but only if we think differently. How I propose we think differently is in the areas of edge computing. We don't have to use the agentic AI that is currently trending. Agentic AI requires a lot of resources that Uganda may not be able to have now. but if we use the available evidence as a source of our rethinking what is possible for Uganda, I believe we can clearly and possibly leapfrog. The last part, Honorable, is on the issue of human-centered AI. We have clearly seen that AI is going to take away our jobs, taking away our livelihoods, taking away our sense of purpose. But we can rethink that as a civilization. If we want to transform as a country, why should we fear our jobs going away? How about if we ask ourselves, how can I look at myself differently so that this AI can work for me? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that high-level summary of issues. Ladies and gentlemen, we are really hard-pressed by time. We had a session of question and answer. I want to suggest that Dr. Albert and Maurice, you submit, I want to propose, you submit the questions to allow us time to catch up with the break tea and then also catch up with the next session. Submit the questions that you wanted to ask to Maurice and to Dr. Albert. We shall collate them and shall find time towards the end of the day when we shall be able to recap those, so that we shall be able to anchor them in the appropriate sections where discussions took place. And for now, I think it has been a very nice session. Let's give these panelists a round of applause, together with the discussants, because they have been able to break down a number of issues. Maurice, over to you.
Thanks, DST. Ladies and gentlemen, can we appreciate the panel? And our standby, you know about the standby generator, but the standby moderator of our session, or chair, can we take a photo, chair, with your team? And the Honorable Minister is handling the next session, so he can join you in this photo, so that we elevate the profile of this photo, DST. Dr. Richard, you could join. It would be nice to join, so that it looks like it's a very extremely official. Ministry of Finance, you're the last as a chair. Yes. There you go. And it's very gender appropriate, this photo. We appreciate that. And Vicky looks stunning. Let's appreciate her style. Vicky Chemutai from the World Bank with style. All right. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable. You can pick your notes. What we've done is we're going to have a working coffee. That's why some of you have noticed your neighbor left you, but they didn't even text you to tell you coffee has been served. That is how bad your neighbor is. But we want to manage time, and so the Honorable Minister is moving. We are moving quickly. As mentioned, time is money. And we want to dive into our next session. Fortunately, the chair of the last session has given us a few minutes. You've allowed us. With the Q&A, I was worried we were going to lose a bit of time. So we will quickly move to our second session, towards a modern industrial policy to drive productivity and growth. Our Honorable Minister of State for Planning is the session chair, and he has an eminent panel. I would love to request that the panelists come. You can come and sit so that he doesn't have to waste time. So panelists, Mr. Adam Collins, IGC, Dr. Anna Vitali, New York University, Dr. Ezra Muhumza, Uganda Manufacturers Association. Dr. Ezra, I know you have a cup of coffee, you can come with it. And let us dive into this session, all right? So please, wherever your name is, all right? The idea is that we do not lose any time and recover quite a bit of time. So, Angela, just make sure the Honorable Lugolobi joins us, and Ezra also. Now, what we've done, and some of you may have this QR code on your table. There is a QR code. Yes, on that card, DST. Yes. Have we put it in the system yet? Yes. I want to show you this QR code. It's extremely special. This was an innovation of the Ministry of Finance from the last EGF, Economic Growth Forum. Another innovation of the Ministry of Finance. AI, we are now appreciating. The ministry has already started applying AI, clearly. So the idea is when you scan this QR code, we're going to have it on the screen. I don't know if the media team has put it in the system yet. Later this evening, as long as you have taken that selfie, it will tell you what to do. You follow the prompts. You want to take the one I have on myself. This man, yeah, that's the one. So if you have a smartphone, you can't use the other small phone. It won't help you. No, this one, this part. If you have a smartphone, scan the QR code. Ezra, we are waiting for you also at the front. Scan the QR code, and there's a couple of instructions you'll run through, including your WhatsApp number. So the only number you can register there is your WhatsApp number. It will ask you to take a selfie because it's AI enabled. Your features, your facial features will be what the back end will use to identify that you have a photo in our bank of photos. So then you will wake up and find photos on your WhatsApp. And you'll be wondering, how did my photos come? As long as you've registered, Vicky, I hope you've registered, because you have a lot of photos already. I have seen them. So you scan the QR code, your WhatsApp number. Chair, I was just holding forth. 3 of you, the other discussant is away, and since he's your PSST, I have no power to summon him. But mine was to invite you, Chair. So the idea is scan the QR code, register your number. It will ask for a selfie. I'm not sure. I was trying to check if my team knows. If I can upload, instead of a selfie, can I upload a photo? Is it possible? I must take a selfie. Okay. And please take a selfie where there's light. The idea that you take a selfie and it's dark, it won't help us. We need to identify you. So, Dr. Albert, my other discussant is not available. How do we handle PSST? But it saves us time anyway, so we can ask questions. Chair, over to you, sir. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. I think he left the DST in his place, and therefore should be able to become the discussant for this discussion. Is that automatically in order? Yes. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to stand on the protocols already introduced. I'll introduce myself. My name is Amos Rugorobi, the Minister of State in charge of planning. Our general theme remains realizing Uganda's tenfold growth strategy in a rapidly changing global economy. And the previous discussion has alluded to this, rapidly changing global economy driven by artificial intelligence. And I looked at that presentation, I said, wow. Yesterday we were discussing the budget strategy for the next financial year, and I realized that we have some gaps. We seem not to have captured the issues well enough. And if we continue in that type of direction, then we are not going to catch up with these front runners. Now, to be able to limit the gap, to keep it in check, I think we need to start running in that particular direction. And that also goes for these climate-related issues, that if we do nothing, or we do very little, we are not going to be there at global scale. Ladies and gentlemen, our discussion in this particular session, session 2, is towards a discussion on a modern industrial policy to drive productivity and growth. And you could see the interplay between the previous session and this one, because the previous one was alluding to issues relating to productivity, driving productivity and growth. So Uganda has an industrial policy, and I attempted to get a copy here. This one, dated December 2020. And today, it's about 5 years since when it was launched. And we have noted that we are having a rapidly changing global economy, suggesting that our industrial policy would actually require to be reviewed quite regularly. Now, accelerating growth in Uganda, therefore, will require a modern industrial policy to accelerate productivity growth across key sectors. Technology and innovation are therefore central to growth in agro-industry. Critical minerals, which we have, commercial agriculture, which we can deliver, knowledge-based services, and other high-value activities. Innovative policies to change business organization, spurring growth of small farms into larger enterprises are central to productivity growth. Modern industrial policies therefore require enhancing competition in new markets, coordinated public investments, judicious use of targeted subsidies tied to specific objectives, and strengthening Uganda's innovation ecosystem, drawing on global experience with effective industrial policy. And we're trying to draw from global experience from this interaction. Now, we have a few questions which the panelists are going to handle. What are the main elements of Uganda's current industrial policies, its successes and shortcomings? And how can these be better focused on constraints preventing farm growth? Number two, how can Uganda design and implement a modern industrial policy that effectively promotes science, technology, and innovation, particularly in knowledge-based services? I think that also includes AI, to drive productivity growth under the 10-fold growth agenda. And the third question is, which industrial policy instruments have been shown to work in practice in similar contexts, and how can they be adapted to support productivity and innovation in Uganda's priority sectors? So you should have benchmarked some. And to help us respond to these, we have the following presenters. Presenter number one will be Mr. Adam Collins from the IGC. And the second presenter will be Dr. Anna Witali, New York University. Presenter number three, Dr. Ezra Muhumuza. And we have all the presenters on this platform. Now, we have got a dangerous substitute in form of a discussant. And you know what dangerous substitutes do? They score goals in the dying minutes. And yeah, that is none other than our Deputy Secretary to Treasury, Mr. Ochaila. He's a veteran in this field. We shall have first, I shall start with Mr. Adam Collins, who is a regional economist for IGC Farms Initiative, based in Uganda, supporting the initiatives work across Ethiopia, Uganda, and Rwanda. And before joining IGC, he worked in private sector development and public policy across Africa, South Asia, most recently leading corporate affairs. His detailed CV is attached. You could read it. Mr. Adam Collins, could you take the podium? You have 15 minutes and a maximum, and you are being timed.
Good. Thank you.
Can someone get me my...
Thank you, Honourable Minister of State, fellow panelists. Thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. So for my presentation, I'm going to attempt to give a framing for Uganda's modern industrial policy, taking into account the global context and some of the incoming kind of research to draw some lessons that are most relevant. So starting with the global context, if I can move to the next slide. So industrial policy is firmly back in the mainstream, right? Some would argue it has always been there, but there's an increasing recognition that all countries are engaged in it and it can play an important role within development, right? So the debate is very much not if industrial policy, it's very much about the how of industrial policy and how to do it well. So I've listed 3 questions on this slide, which I'm going to touch on during my presentation. The first is, what should be the goals and objectives of a modern industrial policy? So in this increasingly complex, competitive world, what are the sectors, activities we should be thinking about targeting, and what are the other goals that we should have in mind? Secondly, how do we approach picking and designing industrial policy tools and measures? And third, how do policymakers think about the types of measures that matter beyond just targeting strategic sectors? And perhaps unsurprisingly, there's no single recipe for success, but what the emerging literature does highlight is a number of rules of thumb that can be used to guide policymakers, and I'll seek to highlight a number of these through my presentation. So starting with the goals of industrial policy, and I think obviously in the context of Uganda, we think immediately about economic development and the need to create high quality jobs. And with that in mind, the ultimate objective we should be thinking about is structural transformation, right? By which I mean creating employment in higher productivity activities. And, we can think about structural transformation as the process of economic development, that process that delivers economic growth, higher incomes, and better quality jobs. And so specifically, we're talking about primarily moving labor.
NBS happening now.
Every story begins in silence. In a village, along a street, in the heart of a dreamer no one notices. Yet stories hold the remarkable power to inspire, transform, and shape the future. The Uganda Film Festival, UFF, is back under the theme Transformation, the Power of Local Stories, to boldly celebrate creativity and talent that transforms our nation. Starting 21st to 28th August, enjoy the latest Ugandan films in cinemas and select screening venues and vote for your favorite films. Don't miss out on the transformational film workshops designed to inspire growth and creativity. Join us on 28th August to recognize, celebrate, and honor excellence in the film industry at the glamorous UFF Awards ceremony. For more information, call our toll-free number 0800 222 777, powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Mami! Wanje sabo ugamotya oyina kachi kagulinzi tekako teka kagulinzi I want everything yes so when I pay the time this will increase my loan limit. Hey hemutieni momo madam remove the food put more meat add the meat yes. Hey. Now, these are the fruits of paying your loans in time.
That's right. Every time you repay your Momo loan on time, your loan limit can increase, giving you access to more money when you need it most. Dial *165*5# to borrow, pay back, and grow your limit with Momo loans.
You have juice?
Yes.
Juice in me.
abanyamusalela abanyamukako muko wamawuno aguse n'omwana w'omukana tinamo kimanja universe inembarara gatano Septemba 2026 kokuyingira kugenda kwa mutwalo vyepe mitwalo 2 golde mitwalo 5 ate platinum ya kakane ate ngambe tani kulanga kulala universe inembarara gatano Septemba 2026 yelini paso festival.
The playground has moved. More than a third of Uganda is online now, and half the country is under 18. 1 in 5 Ugandan children face cyberbullying. Most never tell anyone. It can look like trolling, body shaming, even grooming. Different harm, same silence. Be a cyber hero. Protect a child online the way you would in person. Mute it, report it, check on them. A hero doesn't have to be big. They just have to do something. Be a cyber hero.
Incurring as simply not sufficient to outstrip the investment that we made in the assets. As a measure, we know that return on assets will be one of those key performance indicators that will continue to be computed. But as an airline, we have a journey to walk, and we can only diversify our revenue sources such that we increase our revenue base, and in that way we can justify investing in assets because there are other collaborating or complementary income sources. There was a question in terms of how we can diversify income sources, which I'll park for now. I'll invite maybe my CEO to speak to that because he's better placed, given his wealth of experience, to explain the different avenues we have to diversify our revenue sources. Now, the particular questions that the Honorable asked in terms of the different cost profiles and why they are growing year on year, I'll try to respond to some of them and give the basis on which the costs have increased. One of the huge expenses that we've incurred is the fines and penalties. We mentioned that we have contractual obligations where we've not been paying on time. Yeah, the fact that we've not been paying on time means that depending on the nature of the contract you have, a lot of the contractors we have usually insert clauses that penalize you for late payments. So one of the huge expenses we have in the period under assessment is fines and penalties. So that's one of the reasons as to why on late payments, on the amount outstanding. So what happens, for example, with one of the contractors we have, I mentioned that they were computing a fine or penalty on late payment of 8% per month. Yeah? So that is a very punitive charge because if you do the straight mathematics, that is almost 96% in a year. Now, as to why, that is a contract that we inherited, but those are the terms that we are facing today. Number two is that a lot of the other contracts have escalations because you're signing multi-year commitments. please allow me to finish because
we are asking the chair to see whether he can ask you to give us those contracts. Because you see the problem with you, you are talking for so long. Maybe we are lecturing. He's taking us into other issues as if we are in the Committee of Transport and what.
Maybe let me guide. You reserve the right to your answer.
This man
as to whether we receive it,
the king.
We shall see. You conclude.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Let him conclude.
I have to give you, because...
No, just conclude.
Yeah, I'm explaining as to why there is an increase in the costs. So
yes.
One of those is fines and penalties, and I've mentioned that we have contractual commitments that have clauses that have fines and penalties. Those contracts can be provided.
Because I mentioned earlier
that
as an evidence-based committee, whatever you refer to, you also make a commitment. You either avail the documentation or make a commitment to avail.
Okay, thank you.
And for example, when you talk about contracts, it will be of your to our interest and in your interest to single out, for example, one or two, and so we inspect those provisions. We also need to appreciate. We need to appreciate how did we arrive at that, where such contracts are avoidable. These are some of the things we want to interrogate. But meantime, conclude.
Thank you, Chair. We shall avail them. So,
we will avail what?
We shall avail the copies of the contracts that have the punitive clauses. For example, the fines and penalties.
Yeah, and maybe since already you have got interjection, I want also to learn, because as the question you are attempting to answer, he mentioned, for example, increase in baggage claims, the cost, the increase in legal costs, legal costs. There's an aspect of duplicated tickets. Now, we want effective answers on one, whether it is true or not. Number two, what were your interventions to redress the same? And that must be backed up with evidence. And but because I'm seeing the stress, Coach Bob, 3 minutes.
As the chair guided me, we stand up in good spirit to help. We start from One. Together, one. One. 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Final one. 1. Together as a team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Not 1 second.
Thank you. Let me call you back to order. Now, let me iron out this quickly. I don't know who is the head, the human resource head for the airline. Who is the head human resource? Wait, I'm trying to iron out something. Where are you, the head, the one in charge of human resource?
Mr. Chair, I'm here.
You are there. A member raised a concern on these two individuals.
Yes.
NBS Chokusima, is it the name? Then is titling him as senior legal officer, and then Derek Akankwasa, senior legal officer. Are they employees of the airline, and what is their updated employment status? I just want to clear out some of these questions.
Yes, Mr. Chair, they are employees of Uganda Airlines, and they are senior legal officers.
What was your concern?
Chair, my concern was Mr. CEO stated that as regards to human resource, everything is at stay.
So what was your concern?
So my concern, the promotion, these people were just promoted upon recruitment. No procedures were followed. That's what I want to know.
Yes. Were they recruited? They were recruited at what level, and at what level are they?
Mr. Chair, we ran the advert, they applied, and we recruited into this position.
Which positions?
Senior legal officers.
So what you do, you will avail us a copy of the advert.
Yes, sir.
And how the recruitment was done up to the current status.
Okay.
I think that will assist us for further interrogation.
But Chair, are they here? We want to know where they are. If they are here, we see them.
They are not here, sir.
Oh. Okay. No, for now, we want to interrogate based on facts. Let her first avail us that information. Then we shall see how to process it as to whether the allegation is true or false. I think that one is now out of our way. Let me also clear another one. Honorable saying what was yours, I want to clear it.
Was he on the...
In the summary, don't repeat it.
No, it was on the query of 30 billion. And
Yes.
I was saying losses are accrued as a result of issuing duplicated...
Okay. Now, who is the one in charge of who is the commercial manager or officer? Access the microphone. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Now speak about the ticketing and safety of these tickets. How are these? Are there safeguards, and how come there's allegation of duplication?
Honorable Chair, thank you for that question. For the...
let her first answer.
Okay.
No, at the beginning of the meeting, No. Unless a witness so desires, but once we capture them on record, there is also a book. There is even a book for them to sign. So just proceed and answer.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair.
But if you want the personal details, please pass it through the chair. Pass through the chair. Otherwise, as far as the committee is concerned, introduction is done on the microphone, and then later they register in the book for witnesses. So proceed and answer.
Thank you, Honorable. I can speak to the safeguards currently available for ticketing under commercial. What we've done, yes.
No, not safeguards currently, but as I'm alleging to your side.
Honorable said, so you are alleging which year?
Mr. Chairman.
The year in issue?
Under review. We are
2024?
Yeah.
2025. Okay.
Yes. Sir. It is either she accepts that there were duplication of tickets or not, because those are the losses.
Okay.
Okay. Now you are protected. Give us your response.
Okay. I cannot speak to that year of 2024, 2025 because I was not currently in the office, but I can speak to the period of the time that I'm in office.
Okay, Madam Accounting Officer, the former, would you be, is it in your knowledge, the developing issue of duplication of tickets during your tenure, especially 2024, 2025?
Thank you, Honorable, and thank you, Honorable, for the comment you've raised. Yes, it's on social media, but there were no duplicate tickets. This was information that came up of an audit, which we don't have. We don't have that audit document, but the responses were provided in that.
Proceed. No, proceed and answer.
I proceed.
Then, if there are rising concerns, we shall pick them.
So there were no duplicate tickets. There were various allegations about a number of tickets, but we explained in that very thick book that we actually sent to the 11th the Parliament, right? Yes, we did. But the team can provide the same responses, and they can be able to answer the question he has asked, sir.
Maybe in your answer you are talking about an audit. Are you talking about this audit report or a different audit?
That was a different one. That's where that's coming from.
Not the one.
Not this one.
It was for another audit year.
It was.
Or internal audit.
It was a special.
A special audit.
Yes, by OAG.
Okay. Do we have a copy of that special audit? I want to clear this.
So to answer the question,
yes.
There were no duplicate tickets, and that document actually gives the responses to that point that was raised by auditors.
You want to have you want to assist us? Yes.
Yes, Chair. I wanted to speak to the issue of the duplicate tickets because I'll try to summarize because the members are complaining I'm speaking. So each ticket that is that there is a unique identifier, there are passenger name records that you can have duplicate tickets and that are utilized by two different people. Thank you.
Maybe before I go that way, hold on that. Head legal, Honorable Martin, while contrasting the financials with the aspect in issue, mentioned, no wait, hold on that. No, we are still on the same. He highlighted the aspect of increased claims on luggage and also legal claims. Assist us to appreciate what occasioned this, and because it also occasioned the underperformance and speaks to the increase in losses.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honourable Member, for raising that issue. The increase in the legal claims was a ripple effect from the flight cancellation we suffered during that period and the delays. Because legally, we are bound to compensate a passenger for a delay over a particular amount of that. So that increased the cases, hence the costs were paying out. Secondly, during that period, Chair.
How many cases?
Chair, I don't have it off cuff, but I can avail.
We need the cases referred to for that period, and at what status?
Yeah, and
then
status.
So are you relating luggage with legal claims, or?
Yeah, I'm relating the increase in the legal cost claims.
What about
because we had to pay out.
What about luggage handling?
Baggage, most of them didn't go into court. We paid out, I think, maybe ground handling.
We need a chronology, because we don't want a situation where they are fictitious claims. What are you going to avail us to appreciate these claims, the luggage claims?
On my side, I will avail a detailed status report on all the cases concerning passengers and baggage claim, because some of them are about employees. They've got nothing to do with this one.
Okay.
Yes.
And status, and what also to look at the claim, the nature of these claims.
Okay, would it be sufficient if in the schedule I prepare, I describe the
nature of the claim?
The nature of the claim,
yes.
And the amount claimed and the likelihood.
And to you, what was the major cause for these luggage claims?
Okay.
According to your findings so far. Let's conclude on that. Yes. Let conclude on that.
The main claim concerning baggage was lost baggage. For instance, baggage is heading to Bombay and it is sent to Kinshasa, for argument's sake.
How does it happen?
My colleague from ground operations is not here. They will be able to explain that.
Because we need to understand how it happens, because it subsequently occasions a loss. Yes. And you are being factored in within the OTR that these are huge losses. So we expect in the next appearance, you said is who?
Ground operations.
Ground? Is the manager or what?
Manager ground operations.
Manager ground operations. Yes, CEO, your hand is up.
I'm sorry, but I see us going in every direction and missing the most important issues.
You conclude.
I believe the issue of baggage, I think the person who raised it is absolutely right. There were times when Uganda Airline was operating to Dubai with narrow body, and a lot of excess baggage is collected in Dubai beyond the capacity of the airplane. The passengers come here and claim their luggage. A long delay. So they claim, and they are entitled to a claim. They claim, and because of that long delay, the airline had to continue compensating them. This is one. There were also times, either because our records were not good, or because we were involved with some people who actually got into a game of claiming. When they know that things are not moving, they probably sent some luggages. When it came, they probably collected it. But since nobody recorded it, they came back and claimed it. So this has multiplied the amount. And I tell you, this is not unique to Uganda Airlines. It is anything that can happen in any airline. Okay, you should not take beyond the capacity of your aircraft. You should not accept. That is wrong. But to please customers, they accept and they finally fail to sell. Those are the things that are exaggerating loss due to baggage claim. Okay? No, I didn't say passengers. My passenger mistake. Accepting the airline is the one that is accepting. The airline should not accept beyond its capacity. Is that accepted? Okay, it did happen.
Let him conclude. Let me conclude. Are you concluded?
No, I was trying to come. And then there was something that the chief financial officer directed to me. If you want me to...
Yeah, you answer it.
Yes.
Answer it, yes.
Sustainability of an airline takes time. No airline can start service today and make money tomorrow. Kenya Airways is over 25, 30 years now. It's still losing. South African has been there 85 years. It's still losing money. So it is not unusual for an airline to lose money. Basically, no matter what type of management you have, the first few years will always have a loss making, because this is a stage of building an airline. You don't start with profitability, okay? But gradually you develop the airline to be sustainable. If you ask my opinion, do you think Uganda Airline can be sustainable? I will tell you yes. 2030, 31 is where we put. If you think this country cannot absorb some cost until 2030, 2031, it's a different story. But if you want a successful airline, you have got to invest. And that investment is what Uganda is going through now. And if you try to keep the airline, somebody was saying, don't go beyond what you can absorb. Yes, I understand. You don't put in your mouth what you cannot swallow. But you can improve your digestive system and gradually take more. What we are trying to do in Uganda Airline is to really gradually go to profitability. If you ask me tomorrow morning, will this airline make money? I will tell you no. Tomorrow morning it will not make an airline. But by year this and this, because you are doing this, at this point will break even, at this point will make profit. That is what I can tell you. If you think profitability is expected tomorrow morning, I can assure you it will not happen. And so, it did not happen.
Thank you. Now, before I get leave on this issue, I'm giving you 1 minute. Just be spot on. Don't go into
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Not you. I'm starting from here. Now,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is my submission that the purpose of this committee should not be only about fault finding, but also helping these entities to grow. Why? Because, you see, we are interrogating historical information. But next year, the same people will appear before the committee with another report. So it is important for us to know the interventions that they have taken on the historical issues, such that they inform, we assess if in the future they will be able to overcome the problems that we have identified. For example, she was trying to tell us the current interventions around the revenue and the ticketing. It is good for us to receive this information because it is going to plug the holes. Where there were holes, we will be able to know that now there are steps, there are corrective actions. So we should not dismiss that because we are talking about 2024, we are not living in history. We are not using history to determine the future, so that the future is of hope. So we also need to hear from internal audit the internal controls they have implemented around the cash management, around the baggage, around the legal, all these are also internal control matters, and the reports they rely on a daily basis to be able to see these issues before they crystallize. So, Mr. Chairman, it is important that we take this thing, not that because we want to see only problems, but we must take it because this money is for Ugandans. It is in our own interest for these companies to grow.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, after every Auditor General's observation, there is a recommendation. And on the recommendation, that's why we capture the interventions. For example, for this one, the accounting officer was advised to implement measures aimed at cost control, revenue enhancement, efficient asset utilization, and improved working capital management to support sustainable operation. So it is in our interest to also capture the action taken. Yes, let me, one minute so that we can move to another.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to begin by informing the CEO of Uganda Airlines that the reason why His Excellency took a decision to bring you on board was to improve the status of Uganda Airlines. Now, when you come here and there are issues that are raised and you are continuously saying the loss, we want to see the loss. If we have made a loss of 230 billion, we want to see in the next financial year that loss reducing. But when it goes up, then there is no reason as to why we will celebrate your coming in to manage the airline. That is one. Two, this issue of duplication of air tickets, you need to find out. Because for you may be sitting at the office. You don't know what those people in the field are doing. This thing happened to me, myself, and I'm on record. I went, I got issues with the boarding pass, with my PA, because I moved with my PA. We had my PA had the boarding pass, I had the boarding pass, but those boarding pass had 3 people. Everyone was coming with the same boarding pass, same seat, same, to me, not anyone else. And I raised it, I was coming from Nairobi. So if you say it can't happen, if you hear something coming from the committee, for us we get information. You make, you try to investigate and find out why is it coming. Because it came, I am a Muslim and I said the truth. It happened to me. So those issues are there. But how are you going to reduce this? I saw you also talked about what you can manage to swallow, and you were referring to the baggage, which I agree with you. But one of the things that was bringing passengers to Uganda Airlines was about the kilos that you give. And I think that is a very good strategy if we want to close the gap. Because sometimes I normally fly with Uganda Airlines. You go in the airline, the flight is not full. But why is it not full? Because we don't have incentives that can make passengers go for this. And that issue of kilos was one of the incentives that was bringing the passengers on board. I also want to emphasize, some time back, I had we had started seeing marketing of Uganda Airlines. But now, as if you are relaxing, there is no that marketing that used to...
Honorable, summarize.
That used to, but Chair, I'm raising pertinent issues.
Yeah, but you summarize.
So I think you need also to invest so much in the marketing so that we can get that out. Then this issue of administrative costs. They are too much. If you are not getting profit, if you are not raising a lot of money, then you need to reduce on your expenses. But if your expenses are growing at that rate, even if you are claiming compensation of delays, of baggages, of what, use the other strategy of swallowing what you can afford.
Thank
Why
you.
do you give what you don't have? so that we can reduce this.
Thank you. I had the wish hand, but summarize. Use one minute.
Yes, Chair. The new CEO, when you were recruited, you were expected to improve the entity, which we are we are still monitoring. There is a hope, but within your understanding, how justifiable is it to recruit internal and promote in a situation where the entity is making losses? Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my chairman, mine is a quick one, much as I've tried several times to catch your eye, but finally I've done it. Mr. Chairman, the CEO talked about the expansion, but Mr. Chairman, when you look at the accumulative figure for the last 3 years, that is 2022, 2023, 2024, it amounts to around 786 billion cumulative. But when you compare with the capital injection, because you have given us examples of South Africa, you have given us examples of Kenya Airways, but you look at the cash injection that we have put in Uganda, it's almost eaten up. And we are looking at the 3 years cumulative. How about the audit that is going on? Because by December we shall again get what? Audit reports from the Office of Auditor General. Mr. Chairman, the second point, the CEO talked about the expansion. But when you look at the Auditor report, General's report, it highlights that what attributed to these losses was because of expansion and called for expansions that you did, especially the routes that you had not even established, you had not done research about. That's why we got all these losses. So what interventions do you have or you are going to put in place to ensure that you reduce, because you cannot get a loss of 230 billion shillings, and you think that is normal?
Thank you. Honorable Sewungu.
Now, first of all, Mr. Chairman, we need to know who is the cargo manager. All the losses you see incurring on cargo and the baggage are on cargo manager. I want to inform Mr. CEO why Alliance Air left Uganda in the early 90s, mid-90s, was because there was a connivance between the cargo manager and some people putting more kilos at low cost on the planes. Those things cannot happen on BA. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Honorable Mpindi, because I thought in the eyes of these people I was telling lies. Evidence is before you. And it's not it. But the answer is one. We shall get the documents, Mr. Chair. We shall produce evidence. Mr. Chairman, there is no way our aircraft can be getting illegal consequences. Yes, they are there. But once there is a delay at the airport, there are either two answers. One, you enter the cost of accommodating that person until he gets the right flight, and that is lower than going to court, or you organize him another flight. But you can't tell me that you go for that, incur all that cost. Then the legal department, which you are heading, is redundant and sleeping on the job. Look at me carefully, madam. I don't know that we are known to each other, but the moment, you see you are laughing, but things will change.
Thank you.
And lastly, Mr. Chairman, I would do the issue of ticketing. The lady has moved out slightly, but we need to know the process. But I think it will be in our report. But fortunately, I am going to heaven.
Okay, Mr. Muzale, lastly.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my concern is about the explanation we are being given in regard to the losses. I would have expected Mr. Alan Chene, if that's correct, to say, okay, on page 29, these are the issues that has actually caused the indirect expenses. And the movement from this figure to this figure in the year under review is because of this and that. but he's just explaining, like, for instance, let me give an example. He explained about foreign exchange losses, how they have managed it. But he does not refer to his document. That on page this, there is a movement in the financial this. Now, because of the measures we've put up, this is what we have been able to put up as a new figure. It's not. It's just lamenting. It's just giving explanation, stories.
Thank you.
We did this and that.
Now, I think he has his discretion.
Mr. Chair, my question was not answered.
First, wait. He has his discretion of opting for which answer he thinks is sufficient. That doesn't stop us from making a finding where his answer cannot stand the nature of observation by the Auditor General. However, I only need to remind you that wherever you have an action taken, we need that same action to be facilitated by the enabling documental evidence. What question was yours, so that I will remind them?
Mr. Chairman, my question was about other sources where the company can generate revenue rather than depending on cargo and passenger.
So
it
thank
was
you.
Not answered.
You are going to answer those, but let me guide this way in the interest of time. As you are attempting that, also take us through 1.2. Where the Auditor General observed that government invested 1.984 trillion in Uganda Airline. So government injected 1.984 trillion in Uganda Airline, but to date, only 200 million is being recognized as issued share capital of Uganda Airline Company. Now, because it also speaks to revenue or income, this is money injected. And your failure to recognize the government of Uganda investment has raised audit concerns. So you answer this in addition, and also the others in the interest of time. Now, let them answer for now. Accounting officer, talk for your document before you submit. What is the document you are presenting? Are you the one presenting, or is the accounting officer?
Chair, let me respond. Let me respond to the.
No. The accounting officer had placed here a document. I want him to speak for the document before. Okay. Switch on.
Chair, as you said, the government invested 1.69 trillion.
Yes.
And only 200 million was shown. That is because the amount of money that was invested by the government, there is a stamp duty when you convert it to a capital. We applied for waiver of stamp duty. Now we got the permission to waive that, so it will be included within the capital of the government, of the Uganda government. So it is done already, and we are in the process of finalizing that. Here is the document to show that we have started the process.
The document is titled, it's dated April 24th, 2026. The board chairperson, Uganda National Airline Company Limited, a request to waive stamp duty on the increase of share capital. I acknowledge the receipt of your letter dated 23rd June 2025 on the above subject. We note that your request for a waiver of stamp duty amounting to shillings 8 trillion? 8 billion 481 million 879,935 arising from the increase in the company's share capital from shillings 200 million to 1.696375987,000 trillion. We further note that the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and the Minister of Works and Transport are the shareholders in Uganda National Airline Company Limited, pursuant to Section 2 of the Stamp Duties Act. Stamp duty is not chargeable in respect of an instrument executed by or on behalf of or in favor of government. The transaction under reference falls under the foregoing provision of the law and should be treated accordingly. Patrick Ochairap, for Permanent Secretary to the Treasury. So this is the document they are giving us on record in respect to that, but you proceed on and also answer. Proceed and answer the other concerns. No, I'm guiding you first to answer, then we shall capture whatever is left out. Because I advise him to respond to 1.2 and as well also capture the arising issues raised. Because it also speaks to capital. Yes?
Thank you very much. I think one of the honorable parliamentarian reminded me of the responsibility that I was given when I came to the airline. I do understand that responsibility and I take it very seriously.
Maybe just a small one. The document is dated April. Up to now, you haven't validated. The clearance is dated April. We are now in August.
Yeah, we have started the process. We have not completed, but we have started the process now.
Okay.
Baggage as an incentive. I know baggage as an incentive is one of the good incentives to give to our clients, especially in a trading area, places like Dubai, where people go to buy products. I know some carriers provide even extra bag to attract passengers. I think basically when we operate the type of aircraft that can uplift that much extra weight, we can look at that possibility. When you have an airplane that cannot even take the normal baggage allowance, to try to give more incentive is to create more problems. So, but we are aware and we will work out something that will work within the operational constraint of the company. And we will try to create the incentive that will pull the passengers to us. But I can tell you, the biggest attraction for Uganda Airline is to create a reliable schedule. And we have managed to do that. We have managed to create a reliable schedule, and if for some reason there is a delay, we advise the customers in advance. So our customer service will start to attract more people. The other is, why do you want to add more routes when these existing routes are already losing a lot of money? I am sure you all agree with me that scale matters. If you are operating a very narrow route, the chances of growth, the chances of making enough return on that will be very difficult. The way to really distribute your cost is to operate into more markets in the region. This does not mean you will go without market assessment. You have to do route study. And where the route study proves that in the next 3 years you will make profit on that route, you should go. That is what every airline does. No airline makes money from day one. It invests and gradually builds a market to be able to be sustainable. And somebody, one of the honorable said, Ethiopian Airlines is 80 years old, 80. And it did not make profit from day one. It made profit gradually. And even after, when it is making profit, there were years when it was losing because some unforeseeable things come. But sustainability is built over time. Today, we are operating, except on routes, on very few routes, except Nairobi, and now we started some to Johannesburg. We operate one flight a day. When Kenya Airways operates 3 flights a day on the route, and you operate one day, you are not giving choice to your customers. You have to give choice. Customers buy choice. In order to do that, you have to increase frequency. Even though you lose for some time, gradually it buys you customers. That is how you get customer loyalty. We are operating 3 times to London. It's a very expensive route, I can tell you. When you start a long route like London, you have to make sure that you get enough traffic. The traffic between London and Uganda will never make an airline profitable. What will make the airline profitable is while it uses the main route in London as a backbone, put some flesh from Kigali, put some flesh from Johannesburg, put some flesh from Zambia, put some from, bring passengers into the hub and support the local market. That's what we started doing. I can tell you right now, yesterday evening, the flight that came from Harare came with 44 passengers going to Bombay. If that connection was not available, that airplane would have come with 44 passengers less. This is the type of thing that we are building. From London, now we get 20, 25 passengers going to Johannesburg. When we were operating point to point, these passengers were not coming through Entebbe. I can tell you, if you go to Entebbe airport now and see the place that is blocked for transit passengers will not take 15 people. There is no place. Now we are discussing with civil aviation to improve it. If you go through Addis, 80% of the passengers who go through Addis don't enter Addis. That is the type of thing that we have to build here. Build traffic from everywhere to go through Entebbe, build Entebbe airport, and support the local traffic, the local market. The local market cannot stand on its own. The other thing, you're talking about cargo.
Let him respond.
On every London flight, even when you have 200 passengers, we take between 15 and 20 tons of cargo. And we are, with limited capacity that we are making very good use of cargo space on Uganda Airlines. It's unfortunate that we have restrictions in some markets where we are talking to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to assist. For example, India does not allow any agricultural product from Uganda to be imported into India, which means our airplane, which can take 20 tons, goes empty. We are trying to change that. There are things that are working against us, which we, through the embassies, through foreign affairs, through different agencies, are trying to change. But I can tell you, gradually we will build a traffic that will support the airline.
Thank you. The response to the remaining arising concerns, are they for you?
Chair, there was a clarification regarding the share application which the CEO has made with the submission of the letter. But
yes, but the letter is dated April. You only said that you have started. Is there any backup evidence?
No, we have not completed the process, Chair.
Let him first. No, let him first speak for it, then we cross-examine him on it. Yes?
So,
So
promoted, but you earn it through service, through sweat, and of course through your loyalty to your country. And of course he advised that they should continue, and he says this is just a start. Heavy deployment is coming forth for these officers, and what is expected of them, my view of NBS, is discipline, and that is one thing that he was reiterating. I'll be giving you more details on how it was, the bands, the families that were available, and how the UPDF is continuing to revolutionize, but also, uphold some of the members that have served gallantly. Tracy, that's just a snippet of what I can give you on the newly decorated officers of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Let me get back to you at the Political Command Center. And of course, my name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Good afternoon.
Many thanks, Edgar Matthew Karuhanga, and we do wish the men and women of the UPDF success on their next tour. Uganda Airlines officials, led by the CEO, Girma Wake, are appearing before Parliament's Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises to respond to audit queries raised by the Auditor General in 2025. The airline was summoned earlier this week to explain issues, including grounded aircraft, financial losses, and reports that company cash was being held by individuals at its Juba office. We now take a moment and head to Parliament's committee sessions and listen in to these developments.
Listed in the first schedule is income tax, which are government institutions. But the question here is about government investment. 1.9 trillion. Then you think you are going to be charged the stamp duty of 1.9 trillion to reduce on your capital event income, which is 200 million? The answer does not arise, Mr. Chairman. And these people, they are giving us very, very funny answers. I was seeing the clerk almost wanted to refuse giving me that letter. And I was telling him before you, Mr. Chairman, that's a public document. Now, with the issues of documents, we shall go to crossroads.
Let me process this one out. Mr. Secretary, I want to understand you well.
He's the body chairman of this.
So, you are saying the permanent secretary? Yes?
At the same time, he's in 4. As you read down, 4. I'm concerned about 1 on the top is the chairperson of the board. And down is in 4. P. For permanent security, this local places, I don't know. That's why I was seeking for your guidance, Chair.
Let's get a clarification from the legal.
Chair, I would like to clarify. Director Patrick Ochailap is the Deputy Permanent Secretary to the Treasury. We wrote to Ministry of Finance. He's a board member for Uganda Airlines, but he's not the board chair. This request to increase share capital stamp duty, Honorable, was charged on the increase of share capital from 200 million to 1.6 trillion.
So what you do, you give us the whole chronology of the requesting letter, because if he's indeed also a staff of Ministry of Finance, that is another responsibility. What we want to prove, to be certain,
the COSASE parliamentary proceedings continue on NBS Live, and you can get that on MTN TV by AfroMobile. But moving on, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Henry Musasizi, has opened the 10th Economic Growth Forum, highlighting its role in shaping policies to transform Uganda's economy. Musasizi says several policy proposals aimed at driving economic growth have emerged from the forum over the years. The 10th edition brings together stakeholders to discuss priorities for accelerating Uganda's economic transformation. Here are the details.
The 10th Economic Growth Forum comes at a time when a lot is happening globally, from technology that is changing rapidly, climate-related risks, as well as global changing trade and investment patterns. Now, the Minister for Planning Economic Development, Henry Musasi, says, though these are challenges, at the same time they present opportunities, while the PSST Ramadan Gobi says the Economic Growth Forums that started in 2017 have significantly helped Uganda to understand and know where the gaps are that are constraining its economic development. He says while tax has been increased, it's more about consolidating the tax base in the country, as well as ensuring that there is execution, turning evidence into reforms and reforms into investment and investment into productivity exports, something that has really contributed to Uganda's development, with the exports increasing to 24.4%.
Now, Koboko District Local Government is holding a council meeting to approve members of its standing committees, Hospital Management Board and District Land Board. The session is being chaired by the District Speaker, Baker Richard Kwadabati. Now, the NRM Director of Finance, Hajat Medina Nahum Ojale, is also expected to address the council later, with the meeting focusing on strengthening local government oversight and administration. Joseph Omago, many thanks for joining us. A very good afternoon. Let's get into the proceedings and how far we've gone in this particular, engagement.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. Very good afternoon to you too. So far here in Koboko, the council hall right in the background, the proceedings have been on, but what has happened is that there's been a bit of no agreement reached on who should take which position in these committees of health and land. And I think the issue has been very controversial, and I think some of them will be deferred to a later date. But this afternoon joining me is the youth chairperson of Koboko Council, and Gift Peter is going to explain to us so far what has happened, what is going to happen next.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. We have been inside there for the district council sitting, and for me, I am an ex-officio member of the council. I do not deliberate on issues, but I've paid keen attention to the matters that were debated inside there. We've had 2 motions deferred for a later date. That is the issue of appointment of the District Land Board. The second one is for the appointment of the Hospital Board.
Why were they deferred?
Now, as you know, the appointment of these boards is a statutory instrument mandated by the Local Government Act, that the executive of the district, headed by the chairman LC5, recommends names to the council for thorough scrutiny and for blessing. Now, this is like a blessing room for the councillors to actually now endorse these people who have been endorsed by who has been presented by the executive.
Okay.
But there was a debate arising that the council the executive didn't do the right thing.
Okay. Let's talk about the quality. I saw the debate, how heated it was at some point. The quality of the committee members in less than a minute. What does Koboko District Council want?
The matter that first arose was the issue of the District Land Board. On the person who is supposed to be a lawyer. Some people said he didn't study law, others said he studied law but remained at degree level. There was an issue to do with the quality of his degree. Whether it is with or without it, it is a matter which they were debating.
Okay.
And so far on the 2 people recommended, it was blessed that those ones are okay, they have a good track record. But the question was on the specific part of a person who is supposed to be a lawyer.
Thank you.
That's where the contention came in.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Peter Gift, and he is the youth chairperson and the ex-official member of the Koboko Council, which is sitting right in the background here, to try and deliberate and also choose who goes into which committee. We have got the land board, we have got the health, and then also we have got other important committees which are being discussed here. Back to you, Tracy, at the Political Command Center.
Joseph Omagor, many thanks, and we'll have more on that story in our subsequent bulletins. The 7th biennial private sector CEO retreat is underway, bringing together manufacturers, business owners, traders, and other private sector players to discuss Uganda's industrialization agenda. Participants are being urged to prioritize industrialization as a key driver of economic transformation and the country's ambition for a tenfold growth economy. Government officials are expected to address the retreat and engage the private sector. Lawrence Mushabe joins me from Entebbe. Lawrence, a very good afternoon. And of course, many thanks for joining us. Let's get into the theme and who is in the room, but also the expectations that should take center stage after this very retreat.
Good afternoon to you, Tracy, and everyone watching us. Indeed, I am coming to you live from the Uganda Wildlife Education Center, commonly known as Zoo, where, of course, the 7th biannual CEO retreat is happening and is also still underway. But, of course, this retreat has brought together most of the private sector players, including the business owners, traders, and everyone across the country, most especially those that are dealing in industrialization. As you've said it right here, I'm joined by the CEO of the Presidential CEO Forum, who is here to break it down to us and also bring us to speed on how significant this event is to the country. You're most welcome on NBS.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to talk to your viewers. Yeah. What do you want to know from me?
Bring us to speed. What is this event all about, and maybe how significant it is?
This is the 7th Private Sector CEO Forum. And when I say 7, that means there was a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th. What we do is, by the guidance of the head of state, we were able to do thematic different forums. They are conversations that bring patent concerns, but with solutions. So it's a different, unique platform because we bring together a composition of sectors that speak to that particular conversation. Like now we're talking about industrialization, meaning we are working closely with the Ministry of Trade, who started off by going for the information tours, and these information tours were at the Namave. We went to Mbarara to visit one of the factories, and what are we doing is to understand what are these factories doing? How have they been able to reach there? When you see the story of Untake, that is Untake Bakery, and now being able to have 2 lines to produce other products, that is what we want to, how government support them. Luca Plastic, the same thing. We got to learn that actually most of the products, even on Ugandan shelves, are actually, their packages are being produced here in Uganda. So it is a one way of motivating more Ugandans to get into the industrial sector. One, to support our revenue base. Secondly, to create more innovation. Thirdly, to create employment. And that becomes a better cycle of being productive and also being able to be reliable and resilience to some of these imports that we have been attracting. The government, but also through the head of government, that is the president, insists on import substitution and export promotion. We are not going to achieve that if we do not support the industrialization agenda. And more so, when you talk about the ATMs, which is our national agenda now, through agro-industrialization, mineral development, tourism enhancement, and science and innovation, that is all about industrialization. How do we add value? How do we bring our own wananchi to get into the money economy? Yeah. Of late, the money economy, I think people in money economy about 67 to 70%, from 9%, which was before independence. That is a huge, huge gradual improvement. But we need to hit the 100%. Yeah.
In your last remarks, there are some of the officials that speaking about the new policies that the government, including the ministry, is trying to bring up to support these local industries. What do you have to make about that?
Well, the conversation is actually about that we have ministries who get to know what the concerns are, what the issues are, and then they come up with tangible but measurable solutions. So these policies of like metering, or having metering energy, that allows the industries to have solar. You invest in solar, but which later on government can tap into, and then they can also, it is a two-way traffic. But also other policies like being able to have a certain level of investment, and then you can attract different incentives. So all those things are very more welcome. But what we need from this conversation is, can Ugandans know about them? Yes. What has been the gap is Ugandans do not know about them. But true of the fact, there is a lot being done for Ugandans to grow, to develop, and also be more industrious. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much too. It's a pleasure.
That's Irene Virungi, the CEO of the Presidential CEO Forum, coming in here also, that are in charge of this particular engagement right here. But we will keep updating our audience in our subsequent bulletins. That's NBS at 4:30 updates, NBS Amasengeja, and also NBS Live at 9. I come back to you at the Political Command Center.
Many thanks, Lawrence Mshabe. We will have more details on that. We now want to take a very short break. NBS Live at 1 returns shortly with many more stories.
Water is important in maintaining the adequate amounts of fluids within the body and the adequate mineral salts the body needs. In so doing, it helps the body function well.
Imiryango neza kuba yigwirwa twatandikira kushemererwa jishuka ngo shigatirwa beshunguzi ba gospel bakunda abaratere nanga tukashashanuka ukutaha muri mitwa leta VIP mitwaro 20 debos a miliyoni 3 hamwe na nitaneza bamazireyo kumanya bukukiraho tera 0 50 50 nkaga nina bishagikirwe.
Mami!
Wanje sabo.
Ukamotia. Oina kachi. Ha. Kagulinis tekako. Kagulinis. I want everything, eh?
Okay.
Yes. So, when I pay the time, this will increase my loan limit. Hey! Hemutieni momo. Madam, remove the food. Put more meat. Add the meat. Yes. Hey! Now, these are the fruits of paying your loan is in time.
That's right. Every time you repay your Momo loan on time, your loan limit can increase, giving you access to more money when you need it most. Dial star 165*5# to borrow, pay back, and grow your limit with Momo loans.
You have juice?
Yes.
Juice in me.
August 2026 is here! And Yada for Life presents Mujatu Sinze 2026 Nsima Edition on Saturday 29th August 2026 at Imperial Royal Hotel with a lineup of heavenly voices and ministers. Are you grateful to God for what He has done and accomplished in your life? Do you have a reason to ultimately thank God for? Get your deluxe ticket for 30K, gold for 50K, platinum for 100K, and the table at 2 million. Doors open at 4 p.m. Buy your ticket at Unique Uniforms, Uganda House, and at House of Rest, former Fidodido. For bookings and reservations, call 0760-595-316 or 0708-766-536. Mojato Sinze 2026 Nsima edition, and proudly sponsored by Yuga Tunes, Afro Mobile, Yuka TV, and NBS Music.
Every evening at 9 p.m., NBS Live at 9 takes you inside the day's biggest developments, the decisions, the voices, the pressure points, and the people affected. Look out for the breaking updates, live field reports, exclusive interviews, expert analysis, politics, business, and the stories shaping Uganda and the world. From the corridors of power to the communities feeling the impact. Live at 9 brings you the facts, the context, and the questions that must be answered. When clarity, context, and the full picture matter, one bulletin brings it all together. NBS Live at 9.
NBS. Always.
Too many ads? Expensive subscription? You deserve better. And artists, thousands of plays, but nothing to show for it. This ends now. Introducing Yuga Tunes, the new home of your favorite music on Afro Mobile. Listeners, stream your favorite songs ad-free at no cost. Artists, earn from every stream. Withdraw your royalties anytime from as low as 20,000 Uganda shillings. This is music that pays off. This is music that belongs to you. Yuga Tunes, your sound, your stage, your reward.
Remember the songs that made you sing, the moments that made you dance, the voice that captured a generation. Now, Grace Nachimera is back on stage. Join us for the Power of Grace Live Concert, a spectacular evening celebrating the music, the memories, the journey, and the incredible voice that has inspired audiences for years. Friday, 11th September 2026 at Kampala Serena Hotel. Early bird tickets 130,000 shillings, ordinary 150,000 shillings, and tables 3 million shillings. The Power of Grace Concert is sponsored by
Welcome back. You are watching NBS Live at 1 with me, Tracy Kansime. Uganda is strengthening Ebola preparedness along major movement corridors from the Democratic Republic of Congo to prevent possible reimportation of the virus. Health Ministry Permanent Secretary Dr. Dana Atwine says cross-border movement cannot be stopped because trade, humanitarian and security activities must continue. The ministry has received a specialized mobile laboratory that can be deployed rapidly to test for Ebola and other high-risk diseases.
Thousands of people have been infected and thousands have lost their lives. And therefore, I am calling upon Ugandans that vigilance continue. Right from the time we declared Uganda Ebola free, we have maintained our vigilance, even the 42-day requirement. We have maintained the vigilance. Even after 42 days, we'll maintain the vigilance, especially at the border from Koboko to Chisoro. We are maintaining vigilance, surveillance. We are calling upon the districts in the border not to relax. We are continuously reminding our teams in the border districts to maintain mortality surveillance.
Strong laboratory systems are at the heart of effective disease surveillance and outbreak response. Timely and accurate diagnosis enables the early detection of disease outbreaks. It guides evidence-based public health interventions and ultimately saves lives.
And in foreign news, rescue teams in Nepal are racing to find hundreds of people missing after a catastrophic flash flood along the Nepal-Tibet border. The disaster triggered by the collapse of a Himalayan glacier and a resulting debris flow swept through communities with torrents of water, mud and rock destroying homes, roads and bridges. Nepalese authorities say 177 bodies have been recovered, while more than 800 people remain unaccounted for. Across the border in Tibet, another 558 people are reported missing, although it is unclear whether the figures overlap. Foreign nationals, including tourists and pilgrims from several countries, are among those missing. Rescue operations involving the military and emergency teams are being hampered by difficult terrain, damaged infrastructure and ongoing rain, while authorities warn that debris blocking rivers could trigger further flooding. That is all we had time for on NBS Live at 1. For more on these stories, do join us in our subsequent bulletins, starting with our 4:30 news updates later, NBS Amasengeje at 7 p.m. and, of course, NBS Live at 9. Now, before I let you go, a reminder for you to download MTN TV by Afro Mobile so you can get the latest of what is happening in different forums. If you are interested in what's happening in the sports world, that is available. There are podcasts, entertainment, music, movies, name it, all of that available on MTN TV by Afro Mobile. You stay in charge of your streaming experience regardless of where you are in the world, and that is available in your App Store or your Play Store. And speaking of what's happening in the world of current affairs, later we'll also be catching up with the plenary session that will be happening in Parliament, and that will be happening at 2 p.m. and thereabout. But for now, as we sign out, we'll definitely be crossing over to lunchtime sport with Stuart and Fifi Pinky, aka Mama Sky, who are already there to bring you the latest in the world of sport. My name is Tracy Kansime. Have a good afternoon.
Mami!
Wanje sabo.
Ukamotia. Wina kachi. Ha. Kagulini zitekako. Teka kagulini. I want everything, eh?
Okay.
Yes. So, when I pay the time, this will increase my loan limit. Hey, Hemutieni Momo. Madam, remove the food. Put more meat. Add the meat. Yes. Hey. Now, these are the fruits of paying your loan is in time.
That's right. Every time you repay your Momo loan on time, your loan limit can increase, giving you access to more money when you need it most. Dial star 165*5 hash to borrow, pay back, and grow your limit with Momo loans.
You have juice?
Yes.
Juice in me.
brought to you.
Now Boosty! Funa Boosty with the extreme energy and refreshing taste of Sting Energy Drink. Available countrywide at only 2,000 shillings. Must be Sting. From the makers of Pepsi.
Obudde bonna ebbanga lyonna fifi fyona Pinky Mami Sky ne atwegase kwati atina fe twaniriza banafe abali ku NBS the Big Political Command Center. It's the flexible lunchtime team Stewart of course ne fifi nga twogera ku biche bigenda maaso muziki mza twaniriza nnyo ddala era naye mwaniriza mukole singo okuba yamanyi
wendi nnyo and I'm big bright and better nga nanfuka bwe yagamba nkuzadde oli munene muwanvu ojja kuba mugagga obugagga sinabufuna bwennyini naye siri wabi siri nga we nali mu kusooka but of course I greet you in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Nembagamba, MTN TV by Afromobile is the way to go. For those who have set rules ku screens zamwe and you've chosen sports, you've chosen me and Stewart, chitegeza nti buterevu nnyo ensonga weziri era nga tugenda maaso kulikayo gyobadde n'abagenyi batufunoka. David danengamba kati abenna bingu gwe yali emabega waabwe obadde obaagaza.
So twali abavujjirizi.
Wali tosobola kubavuja. Mpozi bali bebagambye above 50 abadde mu gomesa abo bantu bonnyo. Naye nga wetuli and we are here to champion Ugandan sport ogenda ke bweru gwanga of course tujja kunokola yewa ne wali okulaba ng'ensonga tuzongeramu ekyo kyennyini ekigasa ku gwanga. But how have you been, brother?
Not bad, but just about for Kwajikiza. We have something for you for the good of one of NBS, the Big Political Command Center. We shared something social media and tujja kwa reflecting so that you can keep the conversation flowing. And now kwanga tumanya what's going on na dala brother side air transfers get a muscle so that achitale ku social media and that's it.
Bradley Bakola is joining Liverpool in a deal worth 140 million pounds. How worthy do you realistically think he is of that price tag? Though he joins the best club in the world.
Did you say the best club?
Yeah, Liverpool is the best club in the world.
Most successful over?
We don't care. It's the best club in the world. It depends on your choged.
Kale sigaze na kusatu to the big cancer run era tubagamba be part of the cause wakatinga togera ku the big cancer run again okubeera mu kibuga Kampala ne bitundu bineiba and NBS Sport being the official broadcaster tupategeza shall be grounded tujja kubeera ku ground okulanga tubawa bichechike maso. So if you have not got your cancer kit run kit, please get it as early as today. Again ku gonza pay ku www.centenarybank then gonza pay ojasolo kwanga ofuna kit yogenda ku bread houses osologenda Zambia osologenda kusiko wa mukode muwange muyingo osologenda ku Nick building no osolo kwanga ofuna yo kit osolo kwantu wetegekera the run again okuberayo ku this Sunday sembayo and proceeds on the same as twagala kudukira enteekateeka eri Zambia twagala okubazako the former speaker of parliament omukwaba basimbwa okwabateekamu amaanyi nnyo ddala. Of course nabula bangi basobola okuba bakikoze. We have seen a lot of activities.
Did you say former speaker? My big sister, the right honorable Anita Annette Among.
Yes, yomukwaba asobola kwanga bagiwa omuliro
kati asambira waggulu nga jansi.
Kale the big thing ekyojo ekyokuba tiimu y'eggwanga ey'abali wansi emyaka 20 bakyagenda maaso okwetegekera empaka ezigenda okuba zigibwako akawuwo omwezi ogujja. And Uganda naffe line gye tulimu kyo ekyokulanga tusobola okubanga tugenda mu mpaka zetwogerako ez'ensi yonna olw'ensonga tuva ku mutendera ogwo oba ogenda mu mpaka ez'ensi yonna team Uganda oluvadde okuyungula abazanyi abeerako ddala of course wansi wa stewardship ya Larry Kingston Omonyi nga team manager of course abalala bali ku tiimu eno mu kwongera okubanga abaana engeri bali mu kambi babateekateeka bulungi nnyo ddala okulanga tugenda okukwatira yonna gwe tuzingakaawo ajja kubatuulira mu mpaka zetwogerako ez'abali wansi myaka 20.
Of course that is the bigger picture. Hakuba bwe tubanga twasamba akaji ku under 17 ne tubeera mu World Cup then kitegeeza ne ku under 20 that would be the goal nti wadde mutandika with the region then you go on to the continent ate muve mu confederation yammwe mugende to the bigger World Cup nga bw'ogambye era Roma tebamuzimba mu lunaku lumu and baby steps azivaamu ng'omuntu akuze because fenna tuzitekinga naye the big question is ndabyeko nnyo ku social media waliwo abantu abadde babuuza ku particular names of players ne babuuza ono yalagawa ku basambi kuba oli ajja kubuuza Stewart those we had in under 20 under 23 some years ago baalagawa nekindeetera just why naga nti ejja kuba line ya discussion yange twogera ku under 20 olwaleero as we have these boys how many of them have transitioned okuva ku under 17 gye twalina kuba in a difference of 2 years years or 1 year oba osuubira nti balina kuba ku eno ttiimu nti mu basambi mukulu Larry Kingston as a supervisor nga bwe yeeyise be yakyuzinze do you have the right player and nga Uganda ne federation yennyini gye bali wansi eya FUFA ekoze ekimala okubanga abaana bano ebakuumidde wamu of course mutandika mwenna Nyesi buli omuntu abeera waggulu eri buli omu ataayaya buli omu n'agenda ku bibye ne ekiddako the big chunk abalala obalina eno gye bali b'osobola okubanga obaako kyokola but by and large training egenda mu maaso nga bw'erina okuba of course coming up is the plenary nga tuvudde ku NBS TV nga bw'oliraba mu katini abantu beeteeseteese tujja kulidde ekiva mu parliament kitegeeza nti gwe MTN by Afro Mobile togijjaako olw'ensonga NBS TV yo ekuwa ekisingira ddala okubanga kirungi of course tulabye mu maaso awo I think bagenda kuba mu connect test matches tetujja kwewunyanga bafunyeko Premier League ya Uganda tetujja kwewunyanga ngaye tule mabega kawo basobola okubanga team mu region gye bali mwe bali if they are camping in
actually we are playing Ethiopia game ya face oka kakati Ethiopia tujirabye ko mpira gwabwe nadalo gwabami
batandika okuzanya mpira ogutambula bazanya purposeful football ogo mpira ogubanga buli omali linking up play bagenda bakakana kitegeeza nti naffe we have players individually kweyo team bosobola okunokolayo abali gifted abasobola okubanga mpira baguteka kutaka but however football is also business nti olina okuba n'abantu nga ne wabanga asobola okozesa omupiira ebyenjawulo nga abikola to fit into the team basobola okubanga bagendayo I believe we on the right trajectory nga bwe bati abazungu boogera ate mwe kasamuteeka ku NBS kwegamba our minds muziwa oluzungu bungi nnyo so that is the direction we are taking and ndi very very happy kuba of course mwalimu uko ate wange bamusudde ate biki naye muleke mbabulireko tuli bangi as Ugandans and generation yesinga eri awo ate omupiira kati gufunye academies nyingi nnyo ne youth football setup ina abaana bangi nnyo tudowo abatagenze ngomulala yagenze nga ajja kuvaamu coming James Bogere no problem James Bogere abadde mu under
James Bogere oyogera mu under 17
Nanti waba isemu kati eno yetimu
kati eno
yetimu yentufunyatu oboga atikasa yagenda ku cranes atako mawu
ngalwachi
kuba timu eno yayina oli omuvubuka omulala mu Nabuddu Magala Sengoba sokomle Sengoba yebaka jakuba ya kintu kikulu Magala kuba Magala for me wadde MVP yalondebwa yali mulala Magala he was the ideal player yayina buli kimu playmaker asobola okubanga that creativity nebirala byonna ku team so awo obuuliza this is the time they are all needed nenga Larry Kingston nga bwe tugambye taking them through their paces nalabyeka of course nga bali nnyo ku the outer physique nga jibasinza okubanga bakolako they will hit gym at some point and tubagaliza birungi byerere
of course your team ya under 20 wetu mukwetegekera ogendo lujja okubera Tanzania bali mu kaweefube okulaba nga lukimu kitambuza bulungi mu paka ezijja zitandikira kusoma ezinga 16 nenga 3 gwe mwezi ogujja ogukubye kodi so tulinze bulinzi embere by'okwanga etambula but on the other side ku side ey'omupiira gw'abaana ab'obuwala Kawempe bakoze ekisoboka kyonna okusitominga semi-final era betukati balindiridde ensonga zebasonga gye bajja kwabasa the strong warning eriba opponent wabwe mpaka zino 8-0 yes soundinga ng'eggoli nyingi nnyo ddala at being nti okubye abamu ku abolooza nti maybe bandi baddeko kye bakola that is in team ya CBE then kati amakanda gonna gatulide team erina abantu abazanyo mpira guli familia nammwe the Kenya baita ba Kenya Police ba Kenya Police edimu ku team edina ba na Uganda bagukubidde ddala wakati awo nti je gugenda mpira kuba gukula gulinga mwenge anti je gugenda maso kwa kutabuka and kino kitu wachi otuna the two games nokuba CBE then nokwata banafa ku Vejiboti no bawujjo munana with the team go ina abantu abejo losoro kwa bazanya on the day and the kurange chendoza anti Kawempe have made a very good accord of themselves awasokera ddala game ya soka CBE yali game yalina nnyo amakulu temunga nti yawujjeko yabadde nago naye ujjeko yali esobola okubanga ogikuba mu buli ngeri yonna kuba CBE go wakuba te yamukuba 11 but of course if it had